Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was the dragon god, a Corpo-Sage who owned Arasaka. Naruto x Rebecca, Cyberpunk 2077. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Dragon Ascends. The neon signs of Japantown flickered against the rain-slicked streets, casting prismatic reflections across puddles that mirrored Night City's impossible architecture. Ara's, aka Tower, pierced the polluted sky like an obsidian spear, its upper floors disappearing into low-hanging clouds illuminated by the corporation's signature crimson logo. The centennial celebration had transformed the imposing structure into a beacon of light and sound, drawing the elite from every corner of the fractured world. Naruto Uzumaki stood at the edge of the helipad atop the 200-story monolith, azure eyes reflecting the chaotic cityscape below. The wind tousled his shock of blonde hair, engineered to maintain its distinctive style regardless of conditions. His tailored black suit bore subtle orange accents, a personal touch that corporate image consultants had long since stopped trying to eliminate. The whisker-like implants etched into his cheekbones gleamed with a soft blue phosphorescence, regulating the immense chakra network that coursed beneath his skin. "The board expects you downstairs in 17 minutes, Uzumaki-sama," came Hinata's gentle voice through his neural link. Even after decades of friendship, she maintained formalities during operations, her professionalism unshakable. Naruto closed his eyes, allowing himself one final moment of solitude or facing the corporate sharks circling below. Status report on security protocols. 97% deployment. 3 anomalies detected and contained. Perimeter drones report optimal conditions despite the weather front. Her voice carried the subtle digital undertone of all net runners, but retained a warmth unique to her. Sasuke's representative arrived 5 minutes ago. Naruto's jaw tightened imperceptibly. Militech sends 1 delegate to the celebration of their greatest rival. How appropriately disrespectful. The delegate is Orochimaru. A momentary stillness overtook Naruto, broken only by the distant thunder rolling across the urban sprawl. Interesting choice. Keep surveillance doubled on him. Already implemented. A pause, then softer. Naruto, be careful tonight. My algorithms are detecting patterns I don't like. The formality had dropped, a rarity that spoke volumes about her concern. He smiled, genuine warmth breaking through his corporate mask. When am I not careful, Hinata? The static-tinged chuckle that answered carried decades of shared history. I've prepared a complete file on that question. Current size: 2.7 terabytes. Naruto turned from the edge, the smile lingering as he approached the elevator. Just make sure our other projects remain shielded from tonight's spotlight. The dragon may rule Arasaka, but its shadow must continue the real work. Always, she promised, before the connection returned to its professional cadence. Elevator secured. Descent initiating. Below, the Centennial Gala transformed 50 floors of Ara's, aka Tower, into a showcase of power disguised as celebration. Holographic displays chronicled the corporation's century of dominance, carefully omitting the blood spilled along the way. Synthetic sakura. Petals drifted from invisible emitters, dissolving into sparkles of light before reaching the imported marble floors. As the elevator descended, Naruto activated his internal systems check. The Chakra network illuminated within his mind's eye, a complex lattice of energy channels that science had failed to explain until he decoded the ancient scrolls found beneath Kyoto's ruins. The Sage Tech had revolutionized Arasaka, and subsequently Night City had begun with those weathered documents, their mysterious knowledge fusing with bleeding-edge technology in ways that still defied complete understanding. The doors parted on the 185th floor, the heart of the celebration. A hush rippled through the assembled elites as Naruto emerged. Corporate presidents, territorial warlords, government puppets, and innovation pioneers alike turned to observe the man who had transformed Arasaka from mere megacorporation to something approaching divinity. "The dragon arrives," someone whispered, the voice tinged with equal parts reverence and fear. Naruto moved through the crowd with practiced ease, acknowledging power players with the precise degree of respect each had earned. His public persona, confident bordering on arrogant, ruthlessly brilliant, charismatically intimidating, slid into place like well-worn armor. Uzumaki. The voice slithered through the ambient noise, reaching Naruto's enhanced hearing with unsettling clarity. Orochimaru stood by a display showcasing Arasaka's latest consumer-grade cyberware. The Militech executive's porcelain skin contrasted sharply with his long black K hair and the purple markings surrounding snake-like eyes, cosmetic modifications chosen specifically for their unsettling effect. "I'm surprised Sasuke sent his pet scientist rather than attending himself," Naruto remarked, accepting a champagne flute from a passing server without shifting his gaze. Orochimaru's lips curved into an unnatural smile. "My expertise was deemed more valuable for evaluating your technological claims. Sasuke-sama has little patience for corporate pageantry. Yet he excels at corporate espionage." Naruto sipped the champagne. "Real, not synthetic. Tell me, has he managed to reverse engineer our basic Sage tech implants yet, or is Militech still struggling with the incompatibility issues?" The momentary tightening around Orochimaru's eyes confirmed Naruto's suspicions. Militech's attempts to create combat applications for chakra technology had resulted in catastrophic neural failures among test subjects. Without the precise understanding of the spiritual technological interface that Naruto possessed, their efforts remained dangerously unstable. "We find different applications for similar innovations," Orochimaru replied carefully. "Perhaps if Arasaka hadn't hoarded the original scrolls, progress might benefit everyone." Naruto's expression remained pleasant, though something dangerous flickered behind his eyes. "The scrolls were found by my expedition, deciphered through my understanding of the ancient languages, and implemented through my corporation's resources. Militech's desire for shortcuts doesn't constitute entitlement." Before Orochimaru could respond, Takamura Guro, Naruto's head of security, approached with perfectly calibrated urgency. "Uzumaki-sama, your presence is requested for the commencement address." Naruto nodded, earning from the Militech representative without further acknowledgement. "We'll continue this discussion when I've finished reminding everyone why Arasaka defines this era." Orochimaru. The central place. Atform elevated Naruto above the assembled power players, sophisticated acoustics ensuring his voice would reach every corner without artificial amplification. Below, he noted key figures, the calculating eyes of Danzo Shimura, Arasaka's oldest board member, the analytical gaze of Dr. Sakura Haruno, whose medical division had revolutionized Sage tech applications, the newly arrived Tamari Sabaku, R.E. presenting Suna dynamics with her distinctive fan-shaped implants visible along her forearms. "A century ago," Naruto began, his voice resonating with practiced charisma, Saburo Arasaka established this corporation on principles of technological innovation and unwavering resolve. Today, we honor that legacy not by looking backward, but by redefining humanity's potential once again. The crowd's attention focused entirely on him, exactly as intended. None noticed the service staff member whose fingers twitched in distinctive patterns, activating dormant systems throughout the building. None except Naruto, whose enhanced perception caught the microsecond of interference in the security feed reflecting in a nearby glass surface. "Breach in progress," Hinata's voice whispered through his neural link. Multiple intrusion points activated simultaneously. Naruto continued his address without pause, his neural implants enabling parallel communication. "Threat assessment. Unknown technology disrupting our systems. Signature matches recent Militech experiments. I'm countering, but this is sophisticated." Naruto surveyed the crowd, identifying 7 staff members moving with subtle coordination. Orochimaru's presence was the distraction. "Deploy countermeasures level 3. In the face of unprecedented challenges, he continued aloud, not missing a beat in his speech, Arasaka has consistently demonstrated that limitations exist only in the minds of the hesitant. Tonight, we unveil the next evolution in Sage tech, technology that merges the ancient spiritual understanding of chakra with cutting-edge neural interfaces." The first explosion detonated 3 floors below, the muffled sound reaching the celebration as little more than a distant rumble. Security protocols activated instantly, shielding doors sliding across the primary exits as Arasaka guards materialized from concealed positions. "Hinata, status," Naruto demanded internally, maintaining his composed exterior. "Coordinated strike. 4 explosive devices detonated. Signature suggests Militech experimental compounds." Perimeter breach on the west quadrant, floors 180 to 183. The disguised attackers revealed themselves simultaneously, cybernetic enhancements activating as they converged toward Naruto. Their movements suggested military-grade reflexes, but with unusual fluidity that typical Chrome couldn't explain. "Ladies and gentlemen," Naruto addressed the now anxious crowd, setting down his champagne with deliberate calm. "It appears some of our competitors have chosen to express their corporate rivalry rather directly. Please remain in place while Arasaka security resolves this inconvenience." Takamura moved to shield Naruto, mantis blades extending from his forearms, but Naruto placed a restraining hand on his security chief's shoulder. "Stand down, Guro. This is an opportunity to demonstrate why Arasaka remains unparalleled." The closest attacker lunged, enhanced legs propelling them with inhuman speed. Naruto didn't move until the last possible moment, when his hand shot forward with precision that made the movement nearly invisible to unaugmented eyes. His fingers struck the attacker's chest, connecting with what appeared to be merely a light touch. The attacker froze mid-motion, then collapsed as though every cybernetic system had simultaneously failed. "Chakra disruption point," Naruto explained to the stunned onlookers as the remaining assassins hesitated. "One of our proprietary applications. Temporarily severs the connection between biological and technological systems." The corporate elites pressed back against the walls as Naruto stepped down from the platform, adjusting his tie with casual precision. His eyes had changed, pupils elongated into rectangular shapes, irises shifting from blue to golden with orange accents. The whisker implants along his cheeks pulsed with increasing luminosity. "Sage mode activated," he announced for the benefit of potential investors. Another Arasaka exclusive: enhanced perception, reaction time, strength, and chakra manipulation. Market applications include emergency services, construction, and specialized security. Two more attackers rushed him from opposite directions. Naruto spun between them, his movements fluid yet mathematically precise. One hand formed a spiraling sphere of visible energy, swirling blue light condensed into a perfect orb. "Rasengan," he stated, driving the energy construct into the chest of the nearest attacker. The impact launched the assassin backward, armor disintegrating as they crashed through a holographic display. Energy concentration and focused application. Medical divisions utilize similar principles for non-invasive surgery. The remaining attackers Ted previously concealed weaponry, experimental firearms that hummed with ominous energy. Before they could fire, Naruto formed a distinctive hand sign. Golden chains of energy materialized from his back, whipping across the space to ensnare the gunman. "Chakra manifestation and manipulation," he continued, addressing the audience as though conducting a product demonstration rather than neutralizing a deadly threat. "Currently exclusive to executives with full Sage tech integration, but consumer applications enter testing next quarter." As security forces secured the immobilized attackers, Naruto's posture remained perfectly relaxed. The display of power, carefully calculated to demonstrate Arasaka's superiority without revealing his true capabilities, had achieved its purpose. The fear in the room had transformed into acquisitive hunger. Even an assassination attempt had become a marketing opportunity. "I believe," Naruto addressed the assembled power brokers, "this concludes the formal presentation portion of our evening. Please enjoy the refreshments while our security teams ensure the building is secured." Arasaka apologizes for the interruption. As conversations erupted throughout the room, Naruto nodded to Takamura. "Full containment. I want the survivors intact for questioning." "Already underway, Uzumaki-sama." Impressive demonstration, came a new voice, feminine, confident, with a distinctive Middle Eastern accent. Though one wonders if it was entirely unplanned. Naruto turned to find Tamari Sabaku studying him with shrewd eyes. Her formal attire incorporated subtle armor weave, and the fan-shaped implants along her forearms shimmered with dormant electrical potential. Suna Dynamics suggests Arasaka would attack its own celebration. Naruto raised an eyebrow, his pupils gradually returning to normal. That would be remarkably wasteful, even by Night City standards. Temari's lips curved into a knowing smile. Not an attack, a demonstration. 1th. At showcases proprietary technology while eliminating certain, competing interests. Her gaze flicked meaningfully toward where Orochimaru had been standing before the chaos. The Militech representative had vanished. An interesting theory, Naruto acknowledged. Though it presupposes a level of theatrical calculation that would be almost inhuman. The dragon god of Arasaka is many things, Tamari responded. Her tone revealing nothing of her true thoughts, but human limitations have never appeared to be among them. Before Naruto could respond, Hinata's urgent voice cut through his neural link. Security breach continuing. Unexpected intrusion in R&D, floor 161. Something's different about this one. Not connected to the main attack. Excuse me, Naruto said to Tamari with practiced regret. It seems tonight's entertainment continues. I look forward to our scheduled negotiations tomorrow. As do I, she replied, watching with calculating eyes as he departed. I suspect they'll be even more interesting than anticipated. 20 floors below the ongoing celebration, Rebecca cursed as the security system she'd been quietly bypassing suddenly flared to life. Sophie. Staccated countermeasures deploying without warning. Her neon pink hair reflected in the polished door as she frantically rerouted her specialized deck, trying to maintain access to Arasaka's systems. Fuck, she hissed. Fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. Main, we've got problems. Something triggered full lockdown. This isn't the distraction we planned. No shit, Main's gravelly voice responded through her neural link. Full combat deployment on upper floors. Our intel was bad. There's another crew hitting Arasaka tonight, going loud and messy. Rebecca scowled, adjusting the oversized cybernetic arms she'd customized for both combat and precision work. Goddamn amateurs. Whole towers lit up now. The original plan had been elegant. Use a minor distraction the Centennial Gala to create a security focus upstairs while Rebecca infiltrated the R&D levels to extract data on Arasaka's latest neurotech. The mysterious Sage Tech had transformed implant technology seemingly overnight. And her client wanted the specifications badly enough to pay her crew double their usual rate. Now some trigger-happy gonks had turned a precision extraction into a nightmare. Abort, Main questioned. Rebecca glanced at the security door she'd nearly breached. Behind it lay answers to questions that had been driving Night City's underground tech market into a frenzy. What exactly was Sage Tech? How had Naruto Uzumaki, street orphan turned corporate god, revolutionized neural interface technology so dramatically? The rumors were outlandish. Energy manipulation, spiritual connections, powers bordering on supernatural. No, she decided, redirecting her deck to counter the new security protocols. I'm too close. Give me 5 minutes to grab what we came for, then extract to the secondary point. Your funeral, Main grunted, but didn't argue further. Rebecca's technical skills had saved the crew too many times to question her judgment. The security door yielded to her override, sliding open to reveal a laboratory unlike anything she'd encountered. Traditional servers and neural interface equipment stood alongside strange crystalline structures that pulsed with blue-gold energy. Diagrams on the walls depicted human bodies with overlaid energy channels that resembled nothing in standard medical references. What the actual fuck? She whispered, approaching a central terminal. Rebecca connected her deck and began the data extraction, eyes widening at the encryption sophistication. This isn't standard corp security, she muttered. I don't even know what this is. As the transfer progressed, she examined a nearby workstation. A scroll, actual ancient parchment, lay partially unrolled beside modern tablets. The characters weren't Japanese as she'd expected, but something older, more obscure. Diagrams showed hand positions alongside complex mathematical formulations that made her head hurt just glancing at them. Almost got it, she reported to Main, watching the data transfer progress. 90 seconds. A soft chime echoed through the lab as emergency systems activated. Rebecca froze as automatic doors sealed and atmosphere. Re-scrubbers engaged. Protocols for containing data breaches. Rebecca, unknown approaching your position, Main warned. Signatures off the charts. Get out now. She disconnected her deck with the transfer only partially complete, scrambling toward the secondary exit. As she reached the door, it slid open, revealing Naruto Uzumaki himself. Rebecca stumbled backward, instinctively raising her oversized cybernetic arms into combat position. She'd seen him on corporate broadcasts, of course, Everyone in Night City knew the face of Arasaka's enigmatic CEO. The reality proved more imposing than any broadcast could capture. The whisker-like implants along his cheeks glowed with internal power, and his eyes held a depth that seemed to perceive layers of reality beyond normal perception. Brea, king in entering is generally considered impolite, he remarked, his voice surprisingly informal given his reputation. Especially during a celebration, Rebecca's combat systems scanned automatically. Threat assessment algorithms working overtime. The readings made no sense. Energy patterns that didn't match any known cyber or biological signature, power levels that fluctuated beyond measurable parameters. Just thought I'd check if my invitation got lost, Rebecca retorted, backing toward the opposite exit while calculating escape probabilities. Seems like you've got enough excitement upstairs anyway. Naruto stepped fully into the lab, the door sealing behind him. His movements carried casual grace that somehow communicated more danger than overt aggression would have. The diss track. Cheon wasn't coordinated with your infiltration, then. Interesting. He glanced at the terminal she'd accessed. You managed to breach 7 layers of security to access a system that technically doesn't exist in any registered database. Impressive. Thanks for the performance review, Rebecca snarled, feeling increasingly cornered. You hiring? To her surprise, Naruto laughed, a genuine sound odds with his dragon god corporate persona. Potentially. Depends on who sent you and what they hoped to learn about Sage Tech. Rebecca's eyes narrowed. Most corporate executives would have security forces swarming the room by now. Something wasn't adding up. Client confidentiality's the only ethics us edge runners have left, she replied, activating her arm's defensive capabilities. Nothing personal, just business. Of course, Naruto acknowledged, though I should warn you about the data you partially extracted. Without proper context, attempting to implement any of those specifications would result in catastrophic neural collapse. Militech discovered that unpleasant reality last month. Rebecca stiffened. I'm just the extraction specialist. What the client does with the data isn't my problem. Naruto studied her with unsettling intensity. The pink hair, customized oversized arms. You would be Rebecca, correct? Your reputation in certain circles is quite colorful. The fact that Arasaka's CEO knew her name sent ice through Rebecca's veins. Congrats on your homework. Now either call security or let me walk, because I've got better things to do than corporate small talk. The security breach upstairs has everyone occupied, Naruto replied, moving casually to stand between her and both exits. Which provides us a rare opportunity for honesty. You want to understand Sage Tech, not for your client, but for yourself. You've been monitoring the effects, the market disruption, the unexplainable medical outcomes. You're curious. Rebecca maintained her defensive stance, but uncertainty crept in. How could he possibly know her private investigations? And if I am, then I suggest a more direct approach than corporate espionage. Naruto gestured toward the ancient scroll. What you're seeing here isn't merely technology. It's the integration of spiritual energy systems discovered in ancient texts with modern cybernetic principles. Chakra, the fundamental energy that exists in all living things, harnessed and channeled through technological means. Despite herself, Rebecca felt her curiosity overriding caution. That's corpo mysticism bullshit. Energy is quantifiable, measurable. Is it? Naruto interrupted. He extended his hand, palm upward, and concentrated. A sphere of swirling blue energy materialized above his palm, rotating with increasing speed. Until it stabilized into a perfect orb. This is raw chakra, shaped by will and precise control. No implants generating this effect, no hidden technology. Rebecca's cyber optics switched through spectrum analysis, confirming his claim. The energy existed without technological source, impossible by every scientific standard she understood. That's not possible, she whispered. Precisely why your client wants the data. Naruto agreed, dissipating the energy sphere. Imagine weapons that require no ammunition, healing that requires no pharmaceuticals, enhancements that don't deteriorate organic tissue. The applications are revolutionary, and catastrophically dangerous in the wrong hands. A distant explosion rocked the building, causing the lights to flicker momentarily. Rebecca's link crackled with Main's voice. Rebecca, extract now. Building defenses are fully engaged. We're pulling back to secondary position. The laboratory's security protocols engaged secondary measures. Metal shutters sliding over the already sealed doors. Rebecca realized with growing alarm that she was now locked in with the most powerful man in Night City. Seams were temporarily contained together, Naruto observed unnecessarily. Security Protocol Alpha 9, designed to protect sensitive research during attacks. It will reset once the threat is neutralized. Great, Rebecca muttered, finally lowering her arms from combat stance. The situation had moved beyond simple fighting. So I'm what? Your prisoner. I prefer. Unexpected guest, Naruto corrected, seeming unconcerned by their containment. It provides an opportunity to propose an alternative arrangement. Rebecca's eyes narrowed. I don't make deals with Core. You misunderstand. I'm not offering a corporate arrangement. Naruto moved to the central terminal, activating a hidden interface. A holographic display materialized, showing not laboratory data but surveillance feeds of Night City's most desperate districts. Feeds showing medical clinics with Arasaka logos, distributing care without payment. Community centers providing food and education in neighborhoods corporations had abandoned decades ago. What is this? Rebecca demanded, confused by imagery that contradicted everything known about Arasaka's ruthless profit motivation. The actual application of Sage tech that doesn't appear in shareholder reports, Naruto answered quietly. The projects I fund personally, shielded from the board's knowledge. Technology based on harmonizing energy rather than exploiting it. Rebecca stared at the feeds, recognition dawning. The free clinic in Kabuki that saved my friend's life last year. That was you. Naruto nodded. One of 17 operating under different shell companies. Your client, whoever they are, doesn't want Sage tech to improve lives. They want weapons, control mechanisms, profit engines. Why show me this? Rebecca demanded, struggling to reconcile the corporate monster of legend with the evidence before her. Because I need people who understand the streets, not the boardrooms. People who recognize that power should serve humanity, not dominate it. Naruto deactivated the hologram as another distant explosion vibrated through the building. Your skill set would be valuable for something more meaningful than corporate theft. Rebecca laughed bitterly. Right, I break into your secret lab. And you offer me a job. That's not suspicious at all. Not a job, Naruto corrected. A partnership. Information exchange. You tell me what's happening on the streets that my corporate sources can't see. And I provide insights about Sage tech that might benefit those same streets. Before Rebecca could respond, the building's emergency system surged with power. The lights flickered, then stabilized as a familiar female voice emerged from the communication system. Perimeter secured. Hostile forces neutralized or retreating. Damage contained to non-essential areas. The voice paused. Uzumaki-sama, your presence is requested in primary security for assessment. Acknowledge. Hinata, Naruto responded. Inform security I'm conducting a priority interview related to the breach. I'll join shortly. He turned back to Rebecca as the laboratory's security shutters began retracting. You have approximately 2 minutes to decide. Leave with the partial data you've stolen, which, I reiterate, will cause neural death if implemented incorrectly, or stay and learn the truth about what's really happening in Night City. Rebecca hesitated. Decades of anti-corporate INCT warring with raw curiosity and the evidence she'd just witnessed. If this is some elaborate trap, you have my word it isn't, Naruto replied simply. And contrary to corporate propaganda, my word actually means something. The doors unsealed completely, leaving her path to escape clear. Rebecca glanced between the exit and the enigmatic figure before her, the decision crystallizing with unexpected clarity. Fine, she decided abruptly. Show me what's really going on, dragon. But the second this smells like corpo bullshit, I'm out, and taking everything I learn with me. Naruto's expression shifted into something genuinely warm, transforming from corporate icon to something more human. I would expect nothing less from the legendary Rebecca of the Watson district. He extended his hand, not with corporate formality but with the straightforward gesture of Night City's streets. Partners, then. After a moment's hesitation, Rebecca grasped his hand with her oversized cybernetic one. Partners. For now. 3 hours later, as Night City's perpetual rain washed blood and debris from Arasaka Tower's lower levels, Naruto stood alone in his private office on the 197th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows provided a panoramic view of the sprawling urban nightmare he'd adopted as home decades ago. Behind him, holographic displays tracked the night's events: casualties minimal, property damage acceptable. Media response already being shaped by Arasaka's narrative specialists. Privacy mode, he commanded, and the office's sophisticated systems sealed all surveillance, creating one of the few truly secure spaces in the entire megastructure. From a hidden compartment beneath his desk, Naruto retrieved an ancient wooden box inscribed with symbols predating modern Japanese. The security system required both technological authentication and a precise chakra signature impossible to replicate. Inside lay a scroll older than any he'd shown to Arasaka's researchers. Its parchment preserved through means modern science couldn't explain. Naruto unrolled it carefully, revealing text written in a language dead for millennia. Unlike the chakra research he'd strategically revealed to propel Arasaka's dominance, this document contained truths he'd shared with no one, not even Hinata, his most trusted confidant. The truth about the dragon god. As he studied the ancient text, his reflection in the window showed what no one else could see: 9 spectral tails of energy momentarily manifesting behind him before fading back into invisibility. Another cycle begins, he murmured to himself, tracing characters that described a perpetual conflict spanning thousands of years. Sasuke has found his path once again, right on schedule. The scroll detailed not technological innovation but reincarnation. Souls bound to eternal purpose, finding each other across centuries, playing out cosmic dramas through the lens of human existence. In this cycle, corporations had replaced hidden villages. Cybernetics stood in for jutsu, and Night City served as the battlefield for powers that transcended human understanding. Naruto rolled the scroll closed, returning it to its hiding place. Tonight's events had accelerated the timeline. Militech's attack confirming Sasuke had remembered enough of their shared past to become a threat. Rebecca's unexpected appearance igniting the gathering of important souls around the coming conflict. He closed his eyes, allowing the facade of corporate legend to fall away completely. For a moment, the weight of countless lives lived, battles fought, losses endured, and victories secured pressed down upon him. The immortal being some had once called the Nine Tails Jinchuriki, who had walked through human history under many names. Then the moment passed, and Naruto Uzumaki, corporate visionary, secret philanthropist, ancient soul, opened his eyes to face the coming storm. Begin simulation, he instructed the office systems. Project QB. Full spectrum analysis. Holographic projections filled the office, mapping potential futures based on the night's developments. The dragon god of Arasaka prepared for war unlike anything Night City had witnessed, a conflict that would determine not merely corporate dominance, but the very future of humanity itself. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Fox in the Machine. Prismatic code streamed through the darkness. Fractals of encrypted data glowing in iridescent rivers. The digital architecture of Arasaka's deepest systems materialized around her, not as crude wire frames, but as elegant Japanese gardens. Moonlight filtered through cherry blossoms that represented security protocols, while stone lanterns illuminated paths of privileged access. Hinata Hyuga, known only as Kitsune to anyone outside Naruto's innermost circle, moved through the virtual landscape with practiced grace. Her digital avatar reflected her real-world appearance with subtle modifications, traditional Japanese garments replacing corporate attire, long indigo black hair flowing in non-existent wind, eyes glowing with pearlescent light. The stylized fox mask resting atop her head, her signature in the electronic realm, had become legendary among netrunners who believed Kitsune to be an AI construct rather than human. They were partially correct. Security breach analysis complete, she whispered, her voice creating ripples through the digital plane. 17 distinct intrusion vectors identified. Primary assault originated from Militech proxy servers in Eastern Europe. The private netspace belonged exclusively to Naruto and herself, their sacred garden hidden within Arasaka's vast digital architecture. Here, they could speak without corporate monitoring, strategize without board oversight, exist without performance. And the secondary breach, Naruto's voice surrounded her, omnipresent yet gentle. Unlike typical netrunners, he rarely manifested a complete avatar, preferring to exist as ambient presence, light between leaves, ripples across digital ponds. Rebecca's infiltration appears unconnected to Militech. Her access patterns suggest independent contract work. Hinata Manife, stead a floating sphere representing the Edgerunner's digital signature. Her techniques are unusual, self-taught, inventive, occasionally brilliant. No formal corporate training. Assessment. Hinata studied the sphere, parsing the information with both technological analysis and intuitive understanding developed across years of protecting Naruto's interests. Potential asset, she concluded. Her reputation in Watson emphasizes loyalty to crew and code. Anti-corporate but not irrationally destructive. Technical skills exceptional for street-level education. A whisper of amusement colored the surrounding light. You've already investigated her thoroughly. I investigate everyone who captures your interest, Hinata acknowledged without defensiveness. 25 years of serving. As Naruto's shadow had erased such insecurities. Standard protocol, and non-standard impressions. The question reflected their deeper connection. Naruto valued not just her analytical capabilities, but her empathic intelligence, the intuition that transcended data. Hinata allowed herself a small smile. She reminds me of Tayuya from the previous cycle. Fierce, uncompromising, remarkably gifted despite limited resources. Different coloring, similar spirit. Silence followed, the comfortable quiet of shared understanding. They both remembered Tayuya, though centuries had passed since that incarnation walked the world. The souls tended to return, finding new vessels, playing their parts in the eternal cycle. The attack damaged public-facing systems only, Hinata continued, professional focus returning. Corpo-Sage tech databases remained secure. However, she manifested a scroll of luminous text. Danzo accessed restricted files during the confusion. 7th attempt this quarter. Naruto's presence darkened momentarily. Our board member grows increasingly curious. Increasingly desperate. Hinata's eyes narrowed, their pearlescent glow intensifying. His communication patterns suggest external pressure. Someone is leveraging him. Maintain surveillance but take no action, Naruto decided. His betrayal follows the pattern. We need to understand who he serves in this cycle. Hinata nodded, dispersing the scroll with a gesture. Around them, the digital garden shifted subtly, reflecting transitional data flows as Arasaka's systems processed the aftermath of the attack. Cherry blossoms fell in increasing numbers, security protocols resetting, adapting, evolving against the intrusion patterns. I should return, she said reluctantly. The public investigation requires the official security director's presence. Before you go, Naruto's presence coalesced partially, manifesting as golden light forming a human silhouette beside her. Not quite an avatar, but closer to physicality than he typically allowed in the net. Tonight confirmed what we suspected. The cycle accelerates. Hinata turned toward the luminous figure, her expression softening. In the physical world, their relationship maintained professional boundaries, CEO and security director, legend and shadow. Only here, in this private digital space, could they acknowledge the deeper connection forged across countless lifetimes. I've felt it too, she admitted. Dreams returning, memories of Konoha, of the war, she stopped, certain memories still painful despite centuries of perspective. Of us, Naruto completed gently, of all of us. The souls gather as they always do. Rebecca's appearance is no coincidence. And Sasuke's aggression. The light dimmed. He remembers enough to oppose us. Not enough to understand why. Hinata reached out, her digital fingers brushing through the golden light. Not quite touch, but the closest approximation their current forms allowed. Then we proceed as planned, she affirmed. I'll protect what you've built while you guide them toward remembrance. The garden around them shimmered as external systems demanded attention, reality intruding on their private sanctuary. Hinata straightened, her avatar shifting toward its corporate appearance as she prepared to jack out. One last thing, Naruto's presence whispered as it dispersed back into ambient light. After the official investigation concludes, check on Project Biju in Watson. The attack may have been cover for something more specific. Hinata nodded, fox mask slidden. G into place as she prepared to navigate back through Arasaka's official channels. Always watching, never seen, she promised, the mantra that had defined her service across lifetimes. As her Concio, USNESS prepared to return to physical form, she added softly, "Be careful with Rebecca, Naruto. New souls need time to understand their place in the pattern." The garden faded around her, digital ray, Liddy dissolving into the sensation of neural disconnection. Hinata opened her eyes to the pristine white of her office in Arasaka Tower's security division, the transition from netspace to physical reality seamless after decades of practice. Her desk, minimalist, unadorned save for a small bonsai tree, illuminated as systems recognized her return to consciousness. The wall-sized display activated automatically, streaming security data from throughout the corporation. Outwardly, nothing distinguished her office from any other high-level security executive. The sophisticated Byakugan neural interface that allowed her unprecedented data visualization capabilities remained invisible to casual observation. Modifications installed by Naruto himself, based on the abilities she had possessed in previous incarnations. Hinata rose gracefully, adjusting her immaculate corporate attire. The mask she wore in physical reality, consummate professional, reserved executive, loyal director, settled into place. Ace as naturally as her fox persona in the net. Both were aspects of her true self, roles honed across centuries of serving the same purpose, protecting Naruto Uzumaki and the vision he carried through each cycle. A subtle chime announced an incoming communication. "Director Hyuga," came the formal voice of her assistant. "The board has convened an emergency session regarding last night's security breach. Your presence is requested immediately." "Acknowledged," Hinata responded, her voice modulated to professional neutrality. "Inform them I'll arrive in 5 minutes with the preliminary report." As the connection closed, she allowed herself one moment of private emotion, fingers brushing the simple silver ring she wore on a chain beneath her clothing. Not a corporately approved accessory, but a reminder from another lifetime. Another promise. Then the moment passed, and Kitsune, guardian, netrunner, eternal protector, moved with purpose toward the corporate battlefield where she would once again shield the dragon god from enemies he could not afford to destroy directly. Rebecca stared at the building from across the street, rain pelting her customized leather jacket as neon reflections danced across puddles at her feet. The unassuming structure bore no Arasaka logo, no corporate identifiers, just the simple words, "Watson Community Medical Center," above modest doors. "This is fucking surreal," she muttered, taking another drag from her synthetic cigarette. 3 days had passed since her unexpected meeting with Naruto Uzumaki. 3 days of questioning everything she thought she knew about Night City's power structures. The data packet he'd provided, delivered through anonymous channels to her personal terminal, contained information about this facility and 7 others like it scattered throughout the city's most desperate districts. On paper, they appeared to be independent charitable organizations. The deeper financial trails, which she'd spent to sleepless nights tracing, revealed a labyrinth of shell corporations ultimately funded from accounts she couldn't access. Accounts that, according to her street sources, belonged to Naruto's personal fortune. Rather than Arasaka's corporate holdings. "You gonna stand there all night, are you coming in?" called a gruff voice. Rebecca turned to find a middle-aged man in medical scrubs standing in the doorway. An unlit cigarette between his fingers. Dr. Bose, according to the information Naruto had provided. Former trauma team surgeon who'd violated corporate protocol by treating patients who couldn't afford premium service. "Just enjoying the ambiance," she replied dryly, gesturing at the dilapidated surroundings. Watson District had been declining for decades, corporate investment flowing to N.W. developments while original neighborhoods rotted. Bose snorted, lighting his cigarette with practiced movements. "Yeah, real 5-star view. You're the specialist he sent." Rebecca hesitated only briefly before nodding. The cover story Naruto had suggested, technical consultant evaluating equipment needs, seemed reasonable enough. "Something like that. About damn time," Bose muttered. "Equipment's been glitching for weeks. Come on." She followed him inside, cybernetic senses automatically scanning the environment. The reception area looked like any low-budget clinic, worn furniture, outdated posters promoting hygiene and vaccination, the distinct antiseptic smell common to medical facilities across socioeconomic boundaries. What didn't match was the technology. Rebecca's enhanced V. Ishin detected cutting-edge security systems disguised as ordinary fixtures, environmental scrubbers maintaining hospital-grade air quality, and subtle structural reinforcements that could withstand significant damage. Patients wait here, Bose explained unnecessarily as they passed through to a secured door. Treatment happens back here. The door recognized him biometrically, sliding open to reveal a medical facility that shouldn't exist in Watson, or anywhere outside corporate headquarters. Pristine equipment arranged in efficient configurations, holographic diagnostic displays, automated pharmaceutical dispensaries. Most significantly, Rebecca noted specialized equipment she'd only seen referenced in the data she'd attempted to steal from Arasaka, Sage Tech Medical Applications. Holy shit, she whispered before catching herself. That's what I said first time I saw it, Bose agreed, leading her toward a central treatment area where a teenage boy lay on an examination table. This is Miguel, caught in crossfire between tiger claws and maelstrom 3 days ago. Traditional trauma centers gave him 6 hours to live with full platinum coverage, which his family doesn't have. Rebecca approached cautiously, examining the boy. Conventional monitors displayed vital signs while a separate system, incorporating the crystalline structures she'd seen in Arasaka's lab, mapped something else entirely. Energy pathways overlaid on biological systems, flowing in patterns that reminded her of Naruto's demonstration. As that chakra network, Bose confirmed, checking the boy's conventional vitals. Kid took 3 military-grade rounds through major organs. Traditional surgery could stabilize him temporarily, but the damage was too extensive. Rebecca studied the displays with growing fascination. So you're using this Sage tech to, what, accelerate healing? Not just accelerate it, fundamentally transform it. Bose activated a sequence on the specialized system. The crystalline structures pulsed with soft blue light, sending visible energy flowing into the boy's body through precisely positioned contact points. Conventional medicine replaces or repairs damaged tissue. This technology teaches the body to regenerate itself by harmonizing its internal energy. As Rebecca watched, the monitoring systems displayed real-time tissue regeneration at rates that defied medical understanding. That's impossible, she murmured. That's what the corporations would prefer everyone believe, Bose replied with quiet intensity. Regeneration technology that doesn't require expensive implants, proprietary pharmaceuticals, or corporate-controlled procedures. It's the healthcare industry's worst nightmare. Rebecca circled the treatment area, professional interest overriding her lingering suspicion. If Arasaka has this technology, why aren't they marketing it? The profit potential would be astronomical. Bose gave her a measured look. Who says this is Arasaka technology? The implication hung between them. Rebecca recalled Naruto's words in the laboratory, projects funded personally, shielded from the board's knowledge. A technology based on ancient principles rather than corporate research and development. How many patients have you treated with this system? She asked instead of pursuing the obvious question. 374 this year, Bose answered promptly. Success rate nearing 96% for conditions conventional medicine considers terminal. Zero corporate documentation, zero patient tracking beyond anonymized statistical analysis. Rebecca's eyes narrowed. And you trust the source of this technology? Bose gestured toward Miguel, whose color had improved noticeably in the minutes they'd been speaking. Kid will walk out of here in 3 days with fully restored organs and no bill. Trust is irrelevant compared to results. Before Rebecca could respond, the clinic's sophisticated security system chimed softly. Bose checked a display embedded in his wrist. Incoming trauma, multiple gunshot wounds, severe blood loss. You might want to step back. The exterior doors opened as emergency protocols activated. 2 street kids staggered in supporting a third, a young woman whose torso was soaked with blood, face gray from blood loss. Rebecca recognized the gang tattoos immediately, Valentino's, one of Night City's oldest organizations. Medical staff materialized from adjacent rooms, moving with practiced efficiency as they transferred the wounded woman to an emergency station. No questions about insurance, corporate affiliation, or payment method, just immediate, focused care. Valerie, 17 years old, 3 rounds from what looks like Militech standard issue, reported a nurse as scanners assessed damage. Liver lacerated, significant vascular damage, right lung partially collapsed. Conventional stabilization first, Bose ordered, moving to assist. Prep the Sage Tech Station for Stage 2 treatment. Rebecca watched, fascinated despite herself, as the team worked seamlessly between traditional medical procedures and the mysterious energy technology. Within minutes, he girl's condition stabilized from critical to serious. Within an hour, monitoring systems showed active regeneration of damaged tissues. This treatment would cost minimum 6 months' salary at any corporate facility. Rebecca noted quietly, assuming they'd even treat a Valentino without gang financing. Economics is the least interesting thing about medicine, Bose replied without looking up from his work. That perspective is what got me fired from trauma team. As the emergency stabilized, Rebecca found herself drawn to the clinic's data terminal. Her fingers itched to dive deeper, to understand the systems behind the miraculous results she'd witnessed. Professional instinct, and lifelong suspicion of anything too good to be true, drove her to seek the hidden agenda behind this charitable facade. "Go ahead," came a soft voice behind her. Rebecca turned to find a woman she hadn't noticed previously, Japanese, elegant features, calm demeanor that somehow projected authority without aggression. Her dark business attire lacked corporate logos, but its quality suggested significant resources. "Excuse me," Rebecca asked, instinctively defensive. "The terminal," the woman clarified, gesturing toward the system Rebecca had been examining. "You're trying to determine if there's a trap, a hidden purpose. I'd expect nothing less from someone with your skills." Rebecca's eyes narrowed. "You know who I am. I make it my business to know everyone connected to Sage Tech applications," the woman replied simply. "Particularly when they've recently spoken with Naruto Uzumaki." The name was delivered without inflection, but Rebecca immediately understood the implications. This woman represented Naruto's interests, perhaps part of whatever shadow operation funded these clinics. "And you are?" Rebecca asked, maintaining careful neutrality. "Currently, the financial administrator for this facility and 16 others throughout Night City," the woman answered with practiced precision. "My name is Hinata Hyuga, though that information has limited utility in your circles." The name triggered Rebecca's memory. The female voice during her encounter with Naruto, the security director who'd managed the breach response. This was no mere administrator. Arasaka's head of security slumming it in a Watson clinic, Rebecca observed dryly. Interesting career diversification. A smile touched Hinata's lips, small, controlled, but seemingly genuine. "My corporate responsibilities represent only a portion of my work. Much like your edge-running contracts represent only a portion of your interests." The casual reference to Rebecca's activities, including those not documented in any accessible database, confirmed her suspicion. This woman was dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with physical threat. "So what happens now?" Rebecca asked bluntly. "I've seen your secret charitable operation. Do I get the standard corporate threat package? Silence or consequences?" Hinata's expression remained pleasant, but something shifted in her eyes, a depth that reminded Rebecca uncomfortably of Naruto himself. "If threats were our methodology, this conversation would be unnecessary," she replied calmly. "Naruto believed you might appreciate seeing practical applications before making decisions about potential collaboration." Rebecca glanced back toward the treatment areas, where both Miguel and the Valentino girl now rested in stable condition. Technology that could have saved countless lives in her neighborhood growing up, that could transform healthcare throughout Night City's forgotten districts. "It's impressive tech," she acknowledged cautiously. "Still doesn't explain why Arasaka's golden boy is running underground clinics instead of marketing miracle cures." "Some questions are better answered directly," Hinata replied, activating the terminal Rebecca had been examining. "Access granted. Classification QB7. Voice authorization. Kitsune." The system responded immediately, security protocols dissolving as hidden interfaces materialized. Data streams too complex for immediate comprehension flowed across holographic displays. 48 hours of unrestricted access. Hinata explained, stepping away from the terminal. "Examine whatever you wish. Draw your own conclusions. When you're ready to discuss possibilities, contact this address." She transmitted digital coordinates directly to Rebecca's personal system. "That's it?" Rebecca asked skeptically. "No supervision, no limitations." "Limitations would defeat the purpose of establishing trust," Hinata answered simply. She turned to leave, then paused. "One suggestion, however. Focus on patient outcomes rather than technological specifications initially. Context matters with Sage tech applications. With that cryptic advice, she departed through a side exit, leaving Rebecca alone with access to information that would be worth millions to corporate espionage networks. The complete absence of conventional security measures was either profound naivety or overwhelming confidence. Somehow, Rebecca suspected neither Hinata nor Naruto suffered from naivety. "Fuck it," she muttered, connecting her personal deck to the terminal. If this was an elaborate trap, she might as well spring it with style. If it wasn't, well, that possibility raised questions too uncomfortable to consider immediately. Her fingers danced across holographic interfaces, diving into the strange new world of chakra networks, energy harmonization, and medical applications that defied conventional science. Somewhere between skepticism and wonder, Rebecca began the process of understanding what the dragon god of Arasaka was really building beneath Night City's neon-stained surface. The Ilitech research facility resembled a fortress more than a laboratory, massive concrete walls rising 30 stories above the Arizona desert, security systems creating an invisible perimeter extending 5 kilometers in every direction. Corporate feudalism at its most literal, a technological castle defending proprietary innovations from corporate rivals. Dr. Sakura Haruno studied the structure rough the aircraft's window as they began descent, mentally comparing security measures to Arasaka's equivalent facilities. Different approaches to similar objectives, Militech favoring overwhelming physical presence while Arasaka preferred subtle, layered defenses. Neither corporation trusted the nominal peace established through economic treaties. Approaching final descent, drive. Haruno, the pilot announced. Militech has confirmed landing clearance and security protocols. Sakura nodded acknowledgement, reviewing her briefing materials one final time. This unprecedented meeting, Arasaka's IEF medical researcher invited to consult on Militech's technical difficulties, represented a significant deviation from corporate standard practices. The official explanation cited humanitarian concerns regarding failed cybernetic implant trials. The reality, as Naruto had explained during their private briefing, was considerably more complex. They've been attempting to reverse engineer Sage Tech without understanding foundational principles, he'd told her, unusual concern evident beneath his typical corporate composure. The result has been catastrophic neural degradation in test subjects. 23 confirmed fatalities, possibly more unreported, and we're helping them. Why, exactly? Sakura had asked, one of the few Arasaka executives who could question Naruto directly without repercussion. Their relationship, professional respect layered over complicated history, afforded certain privileges. Naruto's expression had grown distant, the look Sakura recognized from moments when he considered factors beyond immediate corporate interests. Because the test subjects are innocent people, he'd answered simply. And because Sasuke's approach to chakra integration creates instabilities that threaten more than competitive advantage. The mention of Militech's mysterious research director had shifted the conversation's tone. Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto's contemporary, rival, and placated counterpart in the corporate world, remained an enigmatic figure even to most Militech employees. His specialized division operated with unusual autonomy, reporting directly to the board rather than through standard corporate hierarchy. The aircraft touched down on Militech's private landing pad, the subtle vibration pulling Sakura from her reflections. She gathered her materials, deliberately limited to publicly available medical information rather than Arasaka proprietary data, and prepared for the delicate dance of corporate diplomacy. Security protocols consumed 30 minutes, biometric verification, equipment scanning, escort assignment, standard procedures performed with military precision reflecting Militech's foundations in defense contracting. Sakura submitted to the process with practiced patience, maintaining the composed professionalism that had become her trademark. Dr. Haruno greeted a silver-haired man as she finally entered the research division. Thank you for agreeing to this consultation. I'm Kabuto Yakushi, Deputy Director of Cybernetic Integration. Sakura assessed him instantly, mid-40s, distinctive circular glasses that seemed deliberately anachronistic. Subtle cybernetic modifications visible only to medical professionals. His smile projected academic collegiality while his posture suggested military training. The opportunity to add res medical emergencies transcends corporate boundaries, she replied with diplomatic precision, shaking his offered hand. Her augmented senses detected elevated stress markers despite his composed exterior. I understand the situation involves neural interface complications. Yes, though, complications, somewhat understates the matter. Kabuto led her through security doors into a medical wing that more closely resembled a military field hospital than research facility. We've experienced unexpected reactions to our latest neural enhancement prototype. The antiseptic description couldn't disguise the reality Sakura observed as they entered the main treatment area. 27 patients in various stages of neural collapse, tremors, seizures, cognitive dysfunction evidenced by monitoring systems. Medical staff moved between beds with the efficient desperation of those fighting a losing battle. Neural enhancement prototype, Sakura repeated neutrally, activating her specialized optic implants to analyze patients without obvious scanning equipment. These symptoms suggest attempted integration of foreign energy patterns into established neural pathways. Kabuto's expression flickered, surprise quickly masked by professional control. Your reputation for diagnostic acumen is well deserved, drive. Haruno. These patients are dying, Sakura stated flatly, moving toward the nearest bed where a young woman convulsed despite heavy sedation. Their neural architecture is being systematically destroyed by energy fluctuations their systems can't regulate. I need complete Technica L specifications for the implant immediately. The direct approach abandoned corporate niceties, but Sakura had never prioritized diplomatic protocol over patient welfare. Her reputation within Arasaka centered on two equally established characteristics: unparalleled medical brilliance and uncompromising ethical standards. Of course, Kabuto agreed, transmitting files to the secure tablet she carried. Though I should note that certain proprietary elements have been redacted. Sakura scanned the information, her enhanced processing capabilities identifying critical gaps immediately. These specifications are insufficient. I need the complete technical profile, particularly regarding energy transmission mechanisms and regulatory systems. I'm afraid that's impossible without direct authorization from Director Uchiha, Sakura completed, looking up from the tablet with steel in her green eyes. Then I suggest you obtain that authorization immediately, unless Militech prefer. The public relations impact of 30 simultaneous deaths from experimental technology. The implicit threat, exposure of corporate negligence, hung between them. Both understood the potential consequences: regulatory investigations, stock devaluation, class action litigation from families of deceased subjects. Kabuto's professional demeanor cracked momentarily, revealing genuine concern beneath corporate loyalty. I'll request authorization, he conceded. In the meantime, perhaps you could suggest stabilization protocols based on available information. Sakura set aside the tablet, focusing entirely on patient assessment. Her specialized implants, Arasaka's most advanced medical systems enhanced by Naruto's personal modifications, mapped neural patterns and energy fluctuations invisible to standard equipment. Immediate neurotransmitter regulation, she ordered, addressing the medical staff directly rather than working through Kabuto. Synthetic acetylcholine inhibitors at 30% standard dosage, followed by targeted electromagnetic damping across the brain stem. Prepare cooling protocols for core temperature reduction. The staff hesitated, looking toward Kabuto for confirmation. His brief nod released them to follow her instructions. Those measures will buy time, not resolve the fundamental issue, Sakura continued, moving systematically between patients to assess individual variations. The underlying problem appears to be in regulated chakra distribution through neural pathways that haven't been properly prepared for energy integration. Kabuto stiffened. I don't recall mentioning chakra-based technology in our briefing materials, Dr. Sakura met his gaze directly. You didn't need to. The energy signature is unmistakable to those familiar with its properties. She gestured toward the nearest patient's monitoring system. Traditional medical sensors can't detect it, but the interference patterns in standard neural readings create distinctive artifacts. The confrontation Sakura expected didn't materialize. Instead, Kabuto's expression shifted toward cautious respect. You've worked directly with chakra integration systems, he observed. not merely observed outcomes. My position requires comprehensive understanding of all technologies affecting human physiology, Sakura replied carefully. Corporate espionage remained a primary concern even during humanitarian consultation. Before Kabuto could respond, the treatment area's security doors slid open. The atmosphere in the room immediately transformed, medical staff straightening unconsciously. Security personnel shifting to heightened alertance despite no visible threat. Sakura turned, already knowing who she would see. Certain presences announced themselves before physical appearance confirmed identity. Sasuke Uchiha stood in the doorway, his angular features set in the same unreadable expression she remembered from their limited previous encounters. His left eye remained covered by specialized equipment, allegedly a sophisticated optical enhancement, though Sakura suspected more complex functionality. Military precision attire emphasized his position as Militech's combat technology director rather than traditional research scientist. Dr. Haruno, he acknowledged, voice controlled and modulated to professional neutrality. Your assistance is unexpectedly prompt. He careful word choice contained layers of meaning. Not appreciated or welcomed, simply acknowledged as unexpectedly efficient. Classic Sasuke, if her understanding of his personality was accurate. Director Uchiha, she responded with matching neutrality. Your patients require immediate intervention with technology you're attempting to implement without fundamental understanding. Directness had always been her approach, particularly when lives hung in the balance. Corporate diplomacy could wait, medicine couldn't. Something flickered behind Sasuke's visible eye, annoyance, respect, or calculation impossible to determine. Follow me, he instructed simply, turning without waiting for response. Sakura glanced at the patients, professional ethics warring with strategic necessity. My stabilization protocol needs monitoring. Dr. Yakushi will oversee implementation, Sasuke stated without turning. The information you need isn't here. The decision required seconds. Whatever Suk offered might save all patients rather than merely delaying inevitable deterioration. Sakura followed him through security doors into restricted sections of the facility, the distinction between medical division and military research blurring with each successive checkpoint. Naruto sent you personally, Sasuke observed once they reached a private laboratory, security systems sealing them in complete isolation. Not a question, a statement of understanding. 27 lives justify personal attention, Sakura replied, maintaining professional distance despite the shift to first-name basis. Though I admit some surprise that Militech requested Arasaka assistance at all. The corporation requested nothing, Sasuke corrected, activating systems that transformed the sterile laboratory into a sophisticated research environment. Holographic displays materialized, showing neural mapping alongside energy patterns Sakura recognized immediately. I made the request directly. The admission carried significant implications. Bypassing corporate protocols for intercorporation communication represented extraordinary circumstances, or extraordinary motives. Why? Sakura asked directly. Sasuke's expression remained unreadable as he manipulated holographic interfaces, bringing additional data into focus. Because you're the only medical researcher who understands what we're dealing with. And Naruto is the only executive who might authorize your involvement. The straightforward answer surprised her more than any corporate maneuvering would have. Direct truth represented our exceptional circumstances or calculated strategy. Show me what you've done, Sakura requested, professional focus overriding corporate caution. Sasuke activated a secured terminal, revealing technical specifications classified beyond any clearance Sakura officially possessed. The interface displayed experimental neural implants designed to channel energy in patterns disturbingly similar to Arasaka's proprietary Sage tech, with critical differences that immediately explained the catastrophic patient outcomes. You've attempted to force chakra integration without preparing the nervous system, she observed. Analyzing the specifications with increasing concern. The pathways require preparation through graduated exposure. This design creates immediate full connectivity without establishing regulatory mechanisms. The regulatory system was separately implemented, Sasuke countered, bringing additional schematics into focus. Synthetic modulation through cybernetic override. Sakura shook her head, professional certainty overriding deference to his authority. Chakra regulation can't be artificially imposed. The energy responds to biological systems in ways technology alone can't control. The foundation of successful integration is harmony between technological interface and biological response. For the first time, Sasuke's composure showed subtle cracks, not emotional distress but intellectual frustration. Harmony requires time we don't have. The statement contained implications beyond immediate medical concerns. Sakura studied him with growing suspicion. What exact TLY are you developing that justifies fatal experimentation, Director Uchiha? Instead of answering directly, Sasuke deactivated the holographic displays and removed the covering from his left eye. Hat Sakura had assumed was specialized optical equipment revealed itself as something far more complex, a cybernetic enhancement unlike any officially documented technology. The eye itself had been laced with a purple-hued prosthetic featuring concentric rings surrounding the pupil. The Rinnegan, he stated simply. Militech's answer to Naruto's Sage Mode. Sakura maintained clinical detachment despite profound shock. The implant represented technology that couldn't exist without understanding that matched Naruto's unique insights into chakra principles. That's impossible, she stated flatly. The neural integration requirements alone would kill any subject without proper preparation. It nearly did, Sasuke acknowledged with disturbing calm. The integration process required 3 separate procedures over 6 months, with a 14% survival probability at each stage. The implications stunned her. You used yourself as the primary test subject. I was the only suitable candidate. His tone suggested this was obvious rather than extraordinary. The Rinnegan interface requires specific neural architecture and genetic markers that limit potential integration subjects. Sakura's medical training battled with growing horror as the full picture emerged. You identified these markers in your test subjects, attempted to replicate your results through accelerated integration, and created neural collapse when their systems rejected forced implementation. A simplified but essentially accurate assessment, Sasuke confirmed. The question now is whether your understanding of chakra regulation can save them. The ethical nightmare before her defied simple response. Militech had conducted human experimentation without adequate preparation, understanding, or safeguards, driven by corporate competition to match Arasaka's Sage tech advantages. Yet the dying subjects deserved treatment regardless of how their conditions originated. I need complete access to your chakra regulation research, Sakura decided, professional obligations overriding corporate loyalty temporarily. Not the implant specifications, the fundamental understanding of how you've achieved partial integration. Sasuke studied her with unnerving intensity, the Rinnegan implant seemingly perceiving layers beyond physical presence. Access granted, he finally responded, transmitting authorization to her secured tablet. With mutual understanding that information flows both ways. The implied exchange, Militech's partial success for Arasaka's established protocols, violated every corporate security directive. Sakura should report the situation to Naruto immediately, maintain absolute information security. 27 lives hung in the balance. Agreed, she responded, corporate loyalty bending beneath the weight of medical ethics. But only information directly relevant to patient survival. A thin smile touched Sasuke's lips, the first genuine expression she'd witnessed. Of course, Haruno. Our corporations remain competitors despite this collaborative moment. As Sakura began analyzing the newly accessible data, professional focus narrowing to the immediate medical challenge. She couldn't shake the disturbing sense that this exchange served Sasuke's purposes in ways that extended far beyond saving research subjects. His calculated risk in Aling proprietary technology suggested confidence that the benefits outweighed potential information leakage. Most concerning was the technology itself. The Rinnegan implant incorporated principles had paralleled Naruto's personal enhancements rather than Arasaka's commercial applications. Knowledge that should have been impossible for Militech to obtain independently. As she worked to develop treatment protocols, Sakura maintained heightened awareness of the larger implications. Whatever game Sasuke played extended beyond corporate competition into territory she didn't fully understand, but that Naruto might. The next 6 hours disappeared into intensive medical intervention, developing stabilization protocols, implementing neural protection measures, establishing chakra regulation A hybrid techniques combining her knowledge with Militech's experimental approaches. By the 4th hour, patient stability improved measurably. By the 6th, monitoring systems showed neural regeneration beginning in 16 subjects. The treatment is working, Kabuto observed, reviewing patient data with poorly concealed amazement. Neural degeneration has reversed in over half the subjects. Temporary stabilization, Sakura corrected, professional caution overriding optimism. Long-term prognosis requires continued monitoring and protocol adjustment. I've prepared detailed instructions for ongoing treatment. She transmitted comprehensive documentation to the Militech medical systems. Your contribution has been invaluable, Sasuke acknowledged, the Rinnegan once again concealed behind specialized covering. Nothing in his tone or expression suggested the gratitude the words implied. Militech will ensure appropriate compensation is arranged through corporate channels. The formal closure attempted to re-establish normal corporate boundaries after the unusual collaboration. Sakura recognized the strategic shift. Information obtained, crisis mitigated, corporate protocol reasserted. I require direct communication access to monitor patient progress, she stated, ignoring the implied dismissal. Daily updates for the first week, followed by weekly assessment until full stabilization is confirmed. Sasuke considered this demand with characteristic calculation. Limited communication through secured channels, he finally agreed. Dr. Yakushi will provide status repo. RTS according to your specified parameters. As arrangements finalized for her departure, Sakura maintained careful professional demeanor despite growing certainty that this entire scenario, from catastrophic patient outcomes to her unprecedented invitation, had served purposes beyond the obvious medical emergency. Sasuke's controlled responses and strategic information sharing suggested an agenda she couldn't fully determine without additional context. The return flight to Night City provided welcome solitude to organize her observations and prepare for the inevitable debriefing with Naruto. Corporate protocol required immediate reporting of all contact with competing executives, particularly regarding proprietary technology. Personal loyalty demanded complete transparency about Sasuke's apparent advances. Midway through the journey, her secured communication system activated with an incoming transmission from an unexpected source. Dr. Haruno, came Sasuke's voice, the connection utilizing encryption protocols that shouldn't have penetrated her Arasaka secured systems. A personal addendum to our professional exchange. Sakura activated additional security measures before responding. This communication violates established parameters, Director Uchiha. Parameters established for corporate communication, he corrected calmly. This serves different purposes. Warnings C. Nulls activated throughout Sakura's analytical framework. Whatever came next represented significant deviation from standard corporate interaction. What purpose? She asked directly, professional caution fully engaged. Delivery of information Naruto needs but won't seek from Militech official channels, Sasuke replied with disturbing directness. Tell him the Kagaya protocol has activated. Initial manifestations have appeared in Eastern European servers. The pattern matches historical records exactly. The cryptic message meant nothing within Sakura's knowledge framework, yet carried clear urgency despite Sasuke's controlled delivery. What is the Kagaya protocol? She asked, medical curiosity overriding corporate caution. Ask Naruto. Sasuke responded simply. He's been expecting this since discovering the scrolls. We all have. The connection terminated before Sakura could pursue further clarification, leaving her with a message that made no logical sense yet carried implicit importance. The reference to historical records particularly confused her. Chakra technology represented revolutionary innovation, not historical continuation. As Night City's distinctive skyline appeared on the horizon, Sakura prepared for the complex debriefing ahead. The medical intervention had succeeded, saving lives while maintaining reasonable information security. Yet Sasuke's parting message suggested contexts beyond corporate competition, connections between Arasaka's CEO and Militech's research director that transcended their official relationship. The unsettling thought followed her through landing protocols and security verification. What if the corporate rivalry disguised something much older and more significant than market competition? The abandoned subway terminal, beneath Watson District had been forgotten by most of Night City, infrastructure abandoned when transportation priorities shifted to aerial routes decades earlier. Corporate development plans had repeatedly targeted the underground network for redevelopment, yet mysterious regulatory complications consistently prevented implementation. The public explanation cited structural concerns and prohibitive renovation costs. The reality involved strategic property acquisition through shell corporations linked to Naruto's personal holdings. In this particular terminal, 50 meters beneath street level, Rebecca stood before a wall of antiquated subway maps that hadn't been updated in 30 years. The public access terminal beside the maps, a relic designed for commuter information, had been her foe. Cuss for the past 17 minutes as she attempted to breach security protocols that shouldn't exist in abandoned infrastructure. This is either the most elaborate practical joke in history, she muttered. Implementing another bypass algorithm, or someone's got serious security paranoia about ancient subway stations. The terminal's decrepit exterior concealed cutting-edge security systems our specialized deck had identified but struggled to circumvent. Nothing matching Arasaka's corporate signatures, nothing traceable to known security contractors. Custom work with extremely sophisticated architecture. Rebecca had followed digital breadcrumbs from the clinic's unrestricted access, tracing resource distribution networks to this location, supposedly a simple storage facility for medical supplies. The security measures suggested something considerably more significant. Fuck it, she decided, implementing a brute force solution that would likely trigger whatever countermeasures protected the system. If this was an elaborate trap, springing it directly seemed preferable to continued uncertainty. To her surprise, the terminal chimed pleasantly and displayed a simple message: voice identification required. Rebecca hesitated before responding truthfully. Rebecca, edgerunner from Watson. The system processed for exactly 3 seconds before responding. Partial authentication accepted. Secondary verification. What did Naruto Uzumaki demonstrate during your first meeting? The question confirmed her suspicions about the facility's connections. Rasengan. Energy sphere created without technology. Authentication complete. Welcome to Biju Project, Rebecca. The subway map wall retracted silently, revealing a concealed elevator that bore no corporate logos or identifying features. As security measures deactivated, Rebecca felt growing certainty that she'd discovered something few in Night City even suspected existed. The elevator descended smoothly, opening onto a facility that defied expectations. Not the sterile corporate environment she'd anticipated, but something resembling a traditional Japanese structure: wooden paper screens, tatami flooring, minimalist aesthetic incorporating natural elements alongside cutting-edge technology disguised as traditional objects. Okay, this is officially weird, Rebecca muttered, cybernetic arms automatically scanning for threats as she cautiously entered the main chamber. The space centered around a circular pool filled with crystal clear water, its surface perfectly still despite lacking obvious containment technology. Surrounding the pool, 7 crystalline structures similar to those she'd observed in the medical clinic pulsed with soft, rhythmic illumination. Holographic displays disguised as Additional scrolls showed data streams Rebecca couldn't immediately interpret, complex patterns flowing like liquid mathematics. The Dragon's Sanctuary, came a soft voice from behind her. Rebecca spun. Combat systems activating automatically. Hinata Hyuga stood in a doorway she hadn't noticed previously, her corporate attire replaced by simple garments reminiscent of traditional Japanese clothing. Without business context, she appeared younger, less formally intimidating, though no less dangerous to Rebecca's trained assessment. Interesting decorating choices for a storage facility, Rebecca observed cautiously, gradually lowering her defensive stance. Little heavy on the feudal Japan aesthetic for a Polish corporate CEO. A smile touched Hinata's lips, small, controlled, but seemingly genuine. Naruto finds certain traditional environments conducive to chakra work. This facility represents his first successful integration of ancient techniques with modern technology. Rebecca glanced around with renewed interest, professional curiosity temporarily overriding caution. So this is where Sage Tech was born. In a manner of speaking, Hinata acknowledged, moving gracefully into the chamber. Though born implies creation rather than rediscovery. The distinction raised questions Rebecca had been considering since accessing the clinic's unrestricted data. Information that, Suggested chakra technology wasn't innovative development but modern application of ancient understanding, knowledge recovered rather than created. The medical applications alone could transform Night City, Rebecca noted, watching Hinata's reaction carefully. Yet Arasaka markets combat applications, corporate enhancement, luxury consumer products, not universal healthcare solutions. Corporations respond to shareholder expectations. Hinata replied diplomatically. Profit metrics drive implementation priorities. Bullshit, Rebecca countered bluntly. Naruto controls Arasaka with enough authority to dictate implementation priorities. If he wanted universal healthcare applications, the board would follow regardless of short-term profit implications. Instead of corporate defensiveness, Hinata's expression showed something resembling approval. Your analysis matches Naruto's assessment of your perspective. You see beyond immediate circumstances to underlying power structures. Rebecca remained unmoved by the apparent compliment. Still doesn't answer why revolutionary medical technology remains hidden in Watson clinics instead of transforming global healthcare. Some questions are better answered directly. Hinata responded, repeating her statement from their previous encounter. Naruto anticipated you might find this facility. He left something for you. She approached. D1 of the disguised holographic displays, activating sequences that transformed the data streams into coherent information. A message materialized, simple text rather than the elaborate presentation Rebecca would have expected from corporate communication. Rebecca, by now you've seen enough to recognize that Sage Tech represents more than corporate innovation. The clinics demonstrate practical applications, but not the fundamental truth. Chakra technology cannot be mass-produced without catastrophic consequences. The energy responds to intention, resonates with spiritual capacity, requi. Res harmony between user and implementation. Mechanized production creates the same results Militech experienced: degradation, destruction, death. Asterisk. The clinics represent the maximum safe implementation given current limitations. Each facility operates under direct supervision of individuals trained in chakra principles, people who understand the balance required between technological interface and spiritual foundation. Asterisk. If you wish to understand more, return to the Arasaka R&D level where we first met. Security will recognize and admit you. Asterisk. Naruto. The message raised more questions than it answered, its implications contradicting everything Rebecca understood about technological implementation and corporate strategy. If chakra technology required specialized training and couldn't be mass-produced, Arasaka's entire product strategy made no sense. This is corporate mysticism, she stated flatly, turning to Hinata. Technology either works or it doesn't. Spiritual capacity isn't a measurable implementation factor. A reasonable perspective given conventional understanding, Hinata acknowledged without argument. Perhaps practical demonstration would clarify. Before Rebecca could respond, Hinata approached the central pool. The water's surface remained unnaturally still as she knelt beside it, placing her palm just above the surface without making contact. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the water began to move, not rippling outward as physics would dictate, but forming precise patterns that rose from the surface in defiance of gravity. Liquid columns twisted into complex shapes, forming three-dimensional representations of molecular structures, neural pathways, energy conduits interconnecting in ways Rebecca recognized from medical diagrams. What the actual fuck? Rebecca whispered. Cybernetic visual systems automatically scanning for hidden technology that could explain the impossible manipulation. Chakra control, Hinata explained simply. Energy channeled through intention, manifesting in physical effects without technological mediation. The foundation of all Sage Tech applications. The water collapsed back into perfect stillness as Hinata removed her hand. The demonstration concluding as precisely as it had begun. Nothing in Rebecca's extensive technological understanding could explain what she'd witnessed: manipulation of phys-ical matter without visible technology or explainable mechanism. That's not possible, she stated, the denial automatic rather than convincing. Night City exists because people believed corporate dominance was inevitable. Hinata replied with unexpected philosophical depth. Possibility is defined by understanding, not by inherent limitations. The conversation might have continued along NCR. Easingly esoteric paths had the facility's security systems not activated without warning. Displays shifted from calm blue to urgent red as alert protocols engaged, the peaceful atmosphere shattered by warning indicators. Breach detected, came an automated voice, notably lacking the corporate tones of typical security systems. Network intrusion targeting primary Sage tech databases. Multiple access points compromised simultaneously. Quote, Hinata's demeanor transformed instantly from philosophical guide to security director. Source identification. Analysis suggests netwatch augmented by unknown intrusion patterns. The system reported, signature contains elements matching recent Militech cyber operations but exhibits anomalous characteristics. Rebecca recognized the implications immediately. They're hitting Arasaka's main systems while we're away from the tower, she observed, professional assessment overriding personal concerns. Classic misdirection. Hinata's expression read nothing as she activated communication systems disguised within traditional elements of the chamber. Kitsune engaging, she stated simply. Full countermeasure deployment authorized. Secure Biju, U facilities and prepare consciousness transfer. The cryptic instructions meant nothing to Rebecca, but the seriousness with which they were delivered suggested significant threat assessment. I should go, Rebecca decided, recognizing her peripheral position in whatever corporate warfare had just escalated. This seems like an Arasaka internal security matter. Unfortunately, your presence complicates extraction options. Hinata replied with disturbing calm. The attackers have specifically targeted transportation systems throughout Watson District, including infrastructure surrounding this facility. Conventional departure would expose you to significant risk. I'm not exactly helpless, Rebecca pointed out, combat systems running preliminary assessments that confirmed unusual electronic activity in surrounding areas. Her custom arms powered up defensive capabilities automatically. The attackers aren't targeting conventional assets, Hinata explained, activating systems that transformed portions of the traditional space into sophisticated operational interfaces. Their pattern suggests knowledge of Sage tech principles and specific targeting of individuals with chakra exposure. The implication clicked immediately in Rebecca's analytical framework. The clinic patients. Medical treatments involving chakra energy would leave signatures, create trackable patterns. Hi. Nada's expression confirmed the assessment without requiring verbal acknowledgement. We maintain protective protocols for all treatment recipients. Current breach attempts suggest capability beyond conventional corporate espionage. Rebecca processed implications rapidly, professional experience constructing threat assessment models. If they're tracking chakra signatures, they'll trace Naruto's movements through the city. He's a walking beacon given what I've seen of his capabilities. Naruto can protect himself, Hinata stated with absolute certainty. Our primary concern involves Sekonda. Rai targets with less extensive defensive capabilities. The situation crystallized with uncomfortable clarity. Rebecca's extended access to chakra-based systems, first in the Arasaka laboratory, then the medical clinic. Now this facility would have left distinctive signatures on her cybernetic systems. Signatures potentially identifiable by whoever conducted the current attack. I'm compromised, she concluded flatly. My systems are tagged with chakra interaction patterns. Most likely, Hinata confirmed without attempting reassurance. Which necessitates immediate security intervention. Rebecca's combat systems shifted to heightened alert as she assessed Hinata with renewed suspicion. Corporate security intervention typically means eliminating compromised assets. To her surprise, Hinata actually smiled, brief but genuine. If elimination were the objective, this conversation would be unnecessary. Naruto values potential allies considerably above transitory security concerns. Before Rebecca could respond, the facility's communication systems activated with incoming transmission. No video accompanied the audio, but the voice was instantly recognizable. Naruto Uzumaki, Thogue. Lacking the corporate modulation Rebecca had observed during their first meeting. Kitsune, he began without preamble, attack confirmed as preliminary Kagaya protocol implementation. Primary Aras, aka systems secure but secondary networks compromised. Sakura reports similar patterns from Militech interaction. Implementing isolation procedures for all Biju facilities. Understood, Hinata responded. Professional efficiency masking whatever emotional response the information might have triggered. Rebecca is currently at Biju 7. Extraction options limited by surrounding network disruption. A brief pause followed before Naruto continued. Temporary shelter protocol authorized. Provide necessary context for cooperation. The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving Rebecca with escalating questions about the situation's severity. Corporate cyber warfare wasn't unusual in Night City's economic landscape, but the specific terminology and response protocols suggested something beyond standard competitive action. What exactly is the Kagaya protocol? She demanded, patience exhausted by cryptic communications and partial explanations. Hinata's expression shifted subtly, the first indication of genuine concern Rebecca had observed beneath her composed exterior. A designation for specific threat patterns first identified in ancient scrolls and recently manifesting in digital architecture. Named for a figure from historical records who sought to control all chakra implementation for personal ascension. In normal fucking human language, Rebecca clarified irritably. What are we dealing with? Hinata considered briefly before responding with unexpected directness. An entity that exists partially in digital space, partially in chakra networks, utilizing both to expand influence. Not artificial intelligence as conventionally understood, but consciousness operating through technological means to access and control chakra systems. The explanation should have sounded like corporate mysticism or technological delusion. Instead, after everything Rebecca had witnessed regarding chakra implementation, it carried disturbing plausibility. And this entity is targeting people with chakra exposure? She asked, focusing on immediate practical concerns rather than philosophical implications. Precisely, Hinata confirmed, which necessitates protective measures for everyone who has interacted extensively with Sage tech systems, including yourself. Rebecca assessed options with cold pragmatism. Whatever she believed about the situation's metaphysical aspects, the practical security threat appeared legitimate based on system disruption patterns she could directly observe. Her neural link reported increasing interference in surrounding networks, suggesting coordinated electronic warfare beyond typical corporate skirmishing. What protective measures? She asked, professional caution narrowing focus to immediate survival priorities. In response, Hinata approached one of the crystalline structures surrounding the central pool. Temporary chakra harmonization, she explained, activating sequences that cause the crystal to pulse with increasing luminosity. The procedure creates defensive resonance that masks interaction signatures from external detection. Rebecca studied the technology with professional skepticism. And, I'm supposed to just trust that this isn't elaborate corporate brainwashing or consciousness manipulation. Trust represents a significant request given circumstances, Hinata acknowledged without defensiveness. Perhaps consider practical alternatives. Departure exposes you to whatever forces have targeted chakra signatures throughout Watson. Remaining unprotected maintains detectable patterns that will eventually be traced regardless of physical location. The logical assessment didn't offer appealing options. Rebecca considered contacting her crew for extraction, but network disruption patterns suggested communication systems throughout the district had been compromised. Maine and the others would be operating under standard contingency protocols, maintaining distance until contact could be securely re-established. Fuck it, she decided with characteristic bluntness. If this is corporate manipulation, I'm already compromised. If it's legitimate protection, refusing would be stupidly self-destructive. Hinata nodded, neither celebrating the decision nor acknowledging its difficulty, simply accepting practical cooperation under challenging circumstances. The process requires physical connection to the harmonization crystal, she explained, gesturing toward the pulsing structure. Temporary discomfort may occur as chakra pathways establish defensive resonance. Temporary discomfort, Rebecca repeated skeptically. Corporate euphemism for what, exactly? Sensation varies between individuals, Hinata replied with clinical precision. Most commonly described as NSE pressure followed by unusual perception expansion. The effect stabilizes quickly as neural systems adapt. Rebecca approached the crystal with professional caution, combat systems maintaining GHTENED alert despite logical assessment that if Hinata intended harm, more direct methods would have been employed already. The crystalline surface emitted soft warmth as she moved closer, energy patterns visible within its structure shifting in response to proximity. Direct contact with both hands establishes optimal connection, Hinata instructed, monitoring systems displaying information Reb. ECCA couldn't interpret from her position. Maintaining contact through initial discomfort ensures complete protective implementation. If this fries my neural systems, I'm coming back to haunt your corporate ass, Rebecca warned. Extending her cybernetic hands toward the crystal's surface. Contact produced immediate sensation. Not pain as anticipated, but overwhelming pressure throughout her cybernetic systems and biological components alike. The feeling resembled diving too deep underwater, pressure increasing from all directions simultaneously. Rebecca's enhanced vision detected energy TTERNS flowing from the crystal into her customized arms, spreading through cybernetic connections into biological pathways she hadn't known existed. What the fuck? She gasped as perception shifted dramatically. Temporary synesthesia transforming visual input into tactile sensation and vice versa. The chamber appeared to pulse with visible energy currents previously imperceptible, connections between technological elements and organic components suddenly obvious where none had been apparent before. Neural adaptation progressing normally, Hinata observed, monitoring displays that tracked the process. Approximately 40 seconds to stabilization. The disorientation peaked, then began receding gradually as Rebecca's systems adjusted to whatever changes the crystal had implemented. When stability finally returned, she discovered her perception permanently altered in subtle but significant ways, energy patterns visible as faint auras surrounding technological implementations, Setions between systems apparent where they had previously been invisible. What did you do to me? She demanded, examining her cybernetic arms where energy now visibly flowed through pathways that didn't existed, or hadn't been perceptible, before the procedure. Harmonization activated latent chakra potential, Hinata explained, deactivating the crystal as the process completed. The defensive resonance masks your signature from external detection while simultaneously enhancing your ability to perceive energy implementations. Rebecca flexed her customized hands, observing how the visible energy responded to intention, flowing more rapidly with focused thought, stabilizing with relaxation. This is going to take some serious getting used to. Adaptation occurs more rapidly than expected in most cases, Hinata assured her. Checking final readings from monitoring systems. The procedure succeeded. External detection systems will be unable to distinguish your signature from background energy patterns. Before Rebecca could respond, the facility's communication systems activated again with urgent notification. Security breach detected at Arasaka Tower, levels 161 through 168. R&D sections compromised. Physical intrusion coordinated with digital attack. Hinata's composed demeanor shifted immediately to focused alertness. Countermeasures. Automated defenses engaged but showing reduced effectiveness. The system reported. Unknown technology disrupting standard security implementations. The R&D levels, Rebecca noted immediately, recalling Naruto's message about returning there for further information. Where the chakra research is conducted. Hinata confirmed with a brief nod while activating additional communication systems. Kitsune to Central Security. Status report on R&D compromise. The response came not from automated systems but from human security personnel, voice strained with obvious stress. Unknown infiltration technology bypassing standard countermeasures. Intruders utilizing energy signatures similar to Sage tech applications but with inverted patterns. Security forces experiencing system failures when engaging directly. The implicatio NS crystallized in Rebecca's tactical assessment. They're using corrupted chakra technology as weapons against conventional security. If they've reverse-engineered basic principles but implemented incorrectly. Precisely, Hinata confirmed, making rapid decisions evident in her shifting focus. Conventional forces will be ineffective. This requires specialized response. To Rebecca's surprise, Hinata turned toward her with evaluative consideration. Your combat systems have been harmonized through the protection procedure. Theoretical effectiveness against corrupted chakra implementation would be significantly higher than conventional forces. The implication registered immediately. You're asking if I'll help fight whatever's attacking Arasaka Tower, Rebecca stated flatly. After spending my entire career working against corporate interests, I'm acknowledging tactical reality, Hinata corrected without emotional appeal. This attack targets research that affects more than corporate competition. The medical applications you've witnessed represent one aspect of technology these intruders seek to corrupt or control. Rebecca considered the situation with cold pragmatism. weighing self-interest against larger implications. Whatever attacked Arasaka clearly possessed capabilities exceeding conventional corporate warfare. The medical applications she'd witnessed at the C-Clinic represented potential beyond profit margins, technology that could transform life throughout Night City's forgotten districts. Fuck it, she decided abruptly, combat systems cycling to full readiness. Not because I care about Arasaka, but because I've seen what this technology can do for people who need it. How do we get there with transportation systems compromised? Hinata's expression showed brief but genuine appreciation before returning to operational focus. This facility maintains secure transit options independent of public infrastructure. Conventional vehicles would be targeted immediately. She approached another section of the chamber, activating systems disguised within traditional elements. A portion of the floor retracted, revealing technology that defied Rebecca's immediate classification. Neither conventional transportation nor recognized alternative. Chakra-enhanced transit system, Hinata explained, stepping onto the platform that had emerged. Developed Fr. Own principles described in ancient scrolls regarding instantaneous movement techniques. Rebecca approached cautiously, professional skepticism battling with practical necessity. Teleportation. That's scientifically impossible. Not teleportation in the conventional theoretical understanding, Hinata corrected. Energy harmonization creating temporary connection between corresponding systems. The technology doesn't transfer matter, it synchronizes energy patterns between established nodes. That makes exactly zero sense, Rebecca pointed out, studying the platform with both visual assessment and cybernetic scanning. No conventional transportation mechanics appeared present, no propulsion systems, guidance technology, or protective shielding. Conventional physics provides incomplete framework for chakra applications. Hinata replied simply, practical demonstration proves more efficient than theoretical explanation. Rebecca recognized the logical trap, refusing participation mean she remaining in potentially compromised location, while accepting meant trusting technology she couldn't understand. Professional pragmatism dictated the rational choice despite intellectual objection. If this disintegrates me at the molecular level, I expect full resurrection technology as compensation, she muttered, stepping onto the platform beside Hinata. Resurrection remains beyond current Sage tech capabilities. Hinata responded with unexpected humor beneath her composed exterior. Though consciousness transfer shows promising preliminary results. Before Rebecca could process that disturbing statement, Hinata activated the system with precise hand movements reminiscent of Naruto's demonstration in the laboratory. Energy visibly gathered around the platform, forming patterns that reminded Rebecca of mathematical equations expressed through light rather than symbols. Transit initiation requires momentary disorientation, Hinata warned. Maintaining physical stability recommended for first experience. Great. More. Temporary discomfort, Rebecca began sarcastically, before sensation overwhelmed conscious thought. The experience defied description through conventional language. Rebecca's perception fragmented into component awareness, each sense temporarily isolated before recombining in new configuration. The chamber disappeared, replaced by absolute darkness. She paradoxically contained complete information about surrounding reality. Mathematical certainty replaced physical sensation as her consciousness processed existence through energy patterns rather than material interaction. The experience ended as abruptly as it began, reality reasserting itself with jarring solidity. Rebecca staggered slightly as perception normalized, finding herself in a secure section of Arasaka Tower rather than the underground facility, specifically, a reinforced area adjacent to the R&D levels she'd previously infiltrated. What the actual fuck was that? She demanded. Cybernetic systems running automatic diagnostic sequences to confirm operational integrity. Chakra transportation system, Hinata replied with professional calm that suggested extensive experience with the disorienting process. Temporarily converting physical existence into energy pattern allows transmission between connected nodes. The explanation remained incomprehensible within Rebecca's technological framework, but practical reality confirmed functionality regardless of theoretical understanding. They had instantaneously transported from Watson Underground to Arasaka Tower, a physical impossibility according to conventional physics. Further philosophical consideration became immediately irrelevant as security alerts blared through surrounding systems. Hinata moved with practiced efficiency. activating interfaces that displayed the situation throughout affected levels. Holographic projections showed intruders moving through research sections with concerning effectiveness against Arasaka's standard security forces. 11 intruders identified, Hinata reported, assessing tactical displays. Unknown organization affiliation, non-standard cybernetic enhancements, weapons utilizing corrupted chakra implementation. Rebecca studied the security feeds with professional assessment, identifying tactical patterns that suggested military training combined with enhanced capabilities. They're moving with specific objective rather than general destruction. Target appears to be Central Research Repository. Correct assessment, Hinata confirmed, activating communication channels. Security forces, implement containment protocol UZUMAKI-7. Evacuate all non-essential personnel from affected levels. As Arasaka forces adapted to new instructions, Hinata turned to Rebecca with tactical directness. Your combat systems now incorporate harmonized chakra pathways. Theoretical effectiveness against corrupted implementations significantly exceeds standard corporate forces. You're asking if I'll fight for Arasaka, Rebecca stated flatly, recognizing the implicit request. I'm acknowledging tactical reality, Hinata corrected without emotional appeal. These intrude. RS threaten technology with implications beyond corporate competition. The medical applications you've witnessed represent potential they seek to corrupt or control. Rebecca considered the situation with cold pragmatism, weighing self-interest against larger implications. The medical applications she'd witnessed represented potential beyond profit margins, technology that could transform life. Out Night City's forgotten districts. Whatever force attacked Arasaka clearly targeted that potential for purposes that couldn't align with public welfare. I'll help stop them, she decided, activating her customized combat systems. Not for Arasaka, for the people who need access to medical applications without corporate price tags. Hinata nodded once, neither celebrating the decision nor acknowledging its significance, simply accepting practical cooperation under challenging circumstances. Access granted to tactical systems, she stated, transmitting authorization to Rebecca's cybernetics. Security forces will recognize you as authorized responder. The information transfer included facility layouts, security protocols, and tactical assessment of intruder capabilities. Rebecca integrated the data with practiced efficiency, combat planning executing automatically as her systems processed optimal approach vectors. I'll take East Corridor containment, she decided, Profecio. Null expertise asserting control over unfamiliar circumstances. Intruders appear to be using standard pincer movement toward Central Repository. Disrupting Eastern approach creates vulnerability in their formation. Approved. Hinata confirmed, her own systems shifting toward operational mode Rebecca hadn't previously observed. The composed administrator disappeared, replaced by focused security. Professional with evident combat capability. I'll coordinate Western containment while maintaining communication oversight. As they moved toward separate tactical positions, Rebecca noticed Someth. Unexpected. Hinata's eyes had changed, pupils and irises transforming to pearlescent white with faintly visible vein-like structures extending outward. The modification reminded her of Naruto's TRANS formation during the assassination attempt, but with distinctly different manifestation. Your eyes, she began, professional curiosity momentarily overriding tactical focus. Byakugan, Hinata explained simply as they reached the junction where their paths would diverge. Specialized ocular enhancement based on ancient techniques. Provides comprehensive tactical awareness within operational radius. The explanation raised more questions than it answered, but immediate circumstances demanded prioritization. Rebecca nodded acknowledgement before moving toward her designated position, combat. Systems fully engaged as she prepared to face technology she barely understood in defense of principles she hadn't expected to support. Night City's complexity had never presented clearer contrast. IGHTING alongside a corporation she'd opposed throughout her career, utilizing incomprehensible technology, defending research with potential to transform the social structures she'd navigated since childhood. The philosophical implications would require processing later, assuming survival. For now, Rebecca embraced the clarity of immediate purpose, stopping whoever sought to corrupt technology. Hat could save lives throughout the city's forgotten districts. Corporate allegiance became irrelevant compared to that fundamental objective. As she moved into position, newly awakened energy flowing through her cybernetic systems. Rebecca prepared to demonstrate why her reputation inspired respect even among Night City's most dangerous players. Whatever corrupted chakra technology the intruders wielded, they would discover the legendary Rebecca of Watson District remained formidable regardless of circumstances. The dragon's unexpected ally moved with deadly purpose toward the coming confrontation. Determination fueled by possibilities she'd never imagined before encountering the man who merged ancient knowledge with modern power, possibilities worth fighting for regardless of corporate loyalties. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Shadows of the Sage. The Braindance studio nestled in Japantown's labyrinthine back alleys bore no name, only a simple holographic fox mask flickering above an unmarked door. Inside, minimalist decor contrasted with cutting-edge neural technology disguised as traditional Japanese elements, sliding paper screens concealing million-eddy equipment, tatami floors incorporating environmental stabilizers. Incense masking the ozone scent of high-performance processors. Rebecca settled into the customized recliner, her pink hair stark against dark synth leather. The aftermath of the Arasaka Tower battle had left her with more questions than answers, and Naruto's cryptic invitation to understand context through this unsanctioned Braindance facility. "This isn't exactly what I expected when you said you'd show me your origins," she remarked as a technician adjusted neural calibration equipment with practiced efficiency. No corporate logos adorned the equipment, NT or the technician's simple attire, another operation existing outside official channels. "Explanation requires context that words alone can't provide," Naruto replied from the adjacent chair, his C-Orporate armor temporarily abandoned for simple clothing reminiscent of traditional Japanese garments adapted to modern materials. Without the formal business attire, he appeared younger, less intimate. Aiding, though the whisker-like implants still pulsed with soft blue luminescence. "And I'm supposed to just trust that this isn't elaborate corpo brainwashing?" Rebecca challenged, though her tone lacked the hostility that would have colored similar questions days earlier. The battle against corrupted chakra intruders had created reluctant respect, not for Arasaka, but for the technology's potentia. And Naruto's apparent commitment to applications beyond profit. A smile touched his features, genuine rather than calculated corporate charm. Braindance technology doesn't allow fabrication of fundamental memories, only interpretation overlays. What you'll experience happened exactly as recorded, though your emotional response remains entirely your own. The technician completed calibrations without speaking, sliding a specialized headset into position with gentle precision. The equipment differed from commercial Braindance technology, more streamlined yet somehow more substantial, incorporating crystalline elements reminiscent of the chakra harmonization chamber Rebecca had experienced in Watson. "This recording predates commercial Braindance technology," Naruto explained, noting her professional assessment. "Captured through experimental chakra resonance rather than conventional neural recording. The experience may feel different from standard implementations." "Different how?" Rebecca asked, professional caution engaging despite growing curiosity. More immediate came the unexpected response from the previously silent technician, a woman's voice carrying subtle accent. Patterns Rebecca couldn't immediately place. "You will not merely observe the memory but experience resonant connection to emotional and sensory components." Rebecca turned toward the source, finding familiar pearlescent eyes observing her with clinical precision. Hinata had exchanged her combat attire for the technician's simple garments, her presence unexpected yet somehow unsurprising. "You're the BD tech?" Rebecca asked, reconsidering the facility's significance given the security director's presence. "For this session only," Hinata confirmed, making final adjustments to specialized equipment. "These particular memories require specific calibration that cannot be entrusted to standard technicians." The implications raised Rebecca's suspicion again, memories so sensitive that Arasaka's security director personally managed their transmission. Before she could voice renewed concerns, Naruto addressed the unspoken question. "What you'll witness explains why Sage Tech exists outside normal corporate parameters," he stated simply, "after which your decisions regarding further involvement remain entirely yours." Professional curiosity ultimately outweighed caution. Rebecca settled back, allowing Hinata to complete final neural connections. "Let's get this over with." Synchronization initiating, Hinata announced, her voice taking on the formal cadence of technical procedure. Neural calibration at 78% compatibility, exceptional resonance for first exposure. The observation carried implications Rebecca didn't have time to process before reality dissolved around her. Consciousness transitioning into someone else's recorded experience with disorienting immediacy. Unlike commercial braindance where distinction between viewer and subject remained clearly defined. This immersion erased boundaries with alarming effectiveness. She was Naruto Uzumaki, not observing his memories but experiencing them directly, her identity temporarily subsumed by the recorded consciousness. Rain pelted against inadequate shelter, water finding paths through rusted metal sheets that once formed industrial roofing. The abandoned factory had housed 16 orphaned street kids for nearly 7 months, the longest stable location 17-year-old Naruto had managed to secure since escaping state custody 3 years earlier. He moved silently through the makeshift shelter, checking on sleeping forms with the hypervigilance of someone who'd assumed responsibility far beyond his years. Konohamaru had developed concerning cough that traditional medicine hadn't helped. The youngest children needed more nutritional supplements than yesterday's salvage run had provided. Security systems cobbled together from scavenged parts needed recalibration after yesterday's gang incursion. Too many problems. Too few resources. Night City's eternal equation. You should sleep sometimes, came a soft voice from shadows near the improvised communications station. Hinata's eyes reflected minimal emergency lighting, their unusual coloration, result of experimental gene therapy her family had subjected her to before disowning her, allowing superior night vision. Someone has to keep watch. Naruto responded automatically, the exchange familiar through repetition. Hinata rose from her monitoring position, moving with the silent precision that made her their most effective scout. At 16, she'd already developed skills that Corpo security forces would envy, if they'd been willing to recruit disowned Hyuga outcasts. You can't help them if you collapse, she noted. Concern evident beneath practical observation. Naruto's smile came automatically. The expression he maintained regardless of circumstances, the mask he wore to inspire confidence in the children who followed him. I'll sleep when we're all safe. The response represented aspiration rather than practical timeline. Safety remained theoretical concept in Night City's underground economy, a special leave for parentless children without corporate protection. Their makeshift family survived through combination of Naruto's leadership, Hinata's observation skills, and collective determination to remain independent from gangs and corporate exploitation alike. A gentle chime from the communications system interrupted their exchange. Hinata moved immediately to the salvaged equipment, fingers dancing. Across makeshift interface with practiced precision. Encrypted transmission, she reported, surprise coloring her typically composed analysis. High-level corporate protocol, but it's specifically requesting you by name. Naruto crossed the space in 3 rapid strides, concern overriding exhaustion. No corporate entity should know his location, much less have access to secured communicatio. N frequencies he'd established through carefully disguised network taps. Source? He asked, studying the unfamiliar encryption pattern displayed on salvaged monitor. Unknown, Hinata answered, imp. Lamenting analytical algorithms she designed specifically for their underground operations. Transmission origin indicates Japan, Kyoto specifically. The information made no sense within established parameters. Neither had contacts outside Night City, certainly none with resources to transmit internationally on secured frequencies. Corporate trap seemed most likely explanation, yet something about the encryption pattern tugged at Naruto's subconscious, familiar though he couldn't identify why. Can you establish secure receiving protocol? He asked, instincts warring with rational caution. Hinata hesitated only briefly before nodding. Implementing isolation barriers and one-way transmission control. They can communicate but can't trace our exact location. The technology shouldn't have been available to street kids regardless of their unusual skills, but Naruto and Hinata had long since transcended expected capabilities. Their collaborative innovations, his intuitive understanding of system architecture combined with her analytical precision, had created security implementations that occasionally surpassed corporate equivalents. Connection established with characteristic efficiency. Audio transmission filtering through salvaged speakers with surprising clarity given equipment limitations. Uzumaki Naruto, began an elderly male voice, Japanese accent distinct even through digital transmission. Your reputation for protecting those society has abandoned has reached unexpected attention. Naruto exchanged concerned glance with Hinata, whose hands continued moving across interface, attempting to gather additional information about the transmission source. Identifying yourself would be a good start, Naruto responded, caution overriding curiosity. Corporate Adhunters usually approach through more conventional channels. A sound that might have been laughter filtered through the connection. I represent neither corporation nor conventional recruitment, young man. My name is Hiruzen Sarutobi, curator of the Konoha Historical Archives in Kyoto. The name meant nothing to Naruto, though he noted Hinata's subtle reaction, recognition or surprise briefly breaking her composed expression. Historical archives don't typically make international communications to night city street operations, Naruto observed, maintaining careful neutrality while Hinata continued background investigation through secondary systems. Indeed not, the elderly voice acknowledged. Yet circumstances demand unconventional approaches when conventional channels have failed. I have been searching for someone with your particular heritage for considerable time. The emphasis on heritage triggered instinctive alarm. Naruto had no knowledge of his parentage beyond institutional records indicating orphan status from birth. No family had ever emerged to claim connection, no genetic registry had ever flagged relationship to established bloodlines. Wrong number, he responded flatly. No heritage to speak of. That assumption reflects incomplete information, Sarutobi countered calmly. Your genetic signature was flagged in medical database 2 years ago. Following treatment for injuries sustained during territorial dispute in district formerly known as Haywood. The pattern matched parameters of monitored for decades. The reference to incident that should have been untraceable confirmed either extraordinary information gathering capabilities or legitimate connection to events Naruto had carefully obscured. 2 years earlier, defending younger Ch. Children from gang recruitment had resulted in injuries requiring actual medical treatment, the only time he'd risked official healthcare channels. Assuming that's true, Naruto acknowledged carefully. What possible interest could Japanese historical archives have in Night City orphan genetics? The answer requires context you currently lack, Sarutobi replied, diplomatic precision suggesting PR. Professional background beyond academic administration. I propose exchange. Your assistance with recovering historical artifacts recently located in Kyoto Underground Complex, compensated with informat. Ion about your ancestry and resources to support your current protective operations. The offer contained too many irregularities for immediate credibility. International travel required documentation Naruto lacked. Archaeological recovery demanded resources beyond street operation capabilities. Compensation promised answers to questions he'd long since stopped asking. Not interested in fairy tales about long-lost family, Naruto stated flatly, though something indefinable prevented immediate disconnection. And international travel isn't exactly accessible to people in my position. Documentation and transportation have been arranged, Sarutobi responded with unsettling readiness, as though anticipating objections. As for fairy tales, your unusual resilience, heightened sensory capabilities, and natural leadership qualities aren't random genetic variations, Naruto. They represent heritage older than corporations that currently dominate global society. The statement struck an comfortable balance between impossibly specific knowledge of Naruto's capabilities and vague mysticism that defied verification. Before he could formulate response balancing curiosity against practical skepticism, Hinata's hand touched his shoulder, simple gesture conveying complex meaning developed through years of shared experience. The transmission originated from exactly where he claims, she reported quietly. Displaying secondary screen showing confirmation of Konoha Historical Archives' existence and Hiruzen Sarutobi's legitimate position as curator. And financial transfer has already been completed to our emergency account. Significant resources, enough for medical treatment Konohamaru needs and security upgrades for the shelter. The financial aspect transformed abstract propositi on into immediate practical consideration. Whatever Sarutobi's actual motives, the transferred resources could address critical needs facing their makeshift family. Ethical calculation weighed potenti al risk against certain benefit with clear outcome. Assuming I were interested, Naruto began cautiously, This arrangement would require leaving my people unprotected during international travel. Your companion would naturally remain to ensure their security. Sarutobi responded immediately, confirming suspicion that surveillance had preceded communication. The invitation extends exclusively. Why to you for reasons that will become clear upon arrival. Naruto met Hinata's gaze, and spoken communication flowing between them with practiced efficiency. Her slight nod conveyed both practical SS meant. The resources justified risk, and personal commitment to protect their found family during his potential absence. When? Naruto asked simply, decision crystallizing through combination of practical necessity and indefinable intuition that this connection, however improbable, warranted pursuit. Transportation arrives tomorrow evening, Sarutobi answered, satisfaction evident despite digital transmission limitations. Coordinates will follow through this channel. The documentation will withstand any scrutiny. If this is elaborate setup, Naruto warned, street-honed suspicion reasserting itself. You should know I'm considerably more difficult to disappear than typical street kids. Indeed, Sarutobi acknowledged, unexpected warmth coloring his tone. That remarkable resilience represents exactly why this connection matters, Naruto Uzumaki. Your heritage is not burden but birthright, power that corporations have systematically obscured for generations. The transmission ended before Naruto could demand clarification, leaving cryptic implications hanging in recycled factory air. He turned to Hinata, whose analytical expression suggested continued processing of limited information against potential scenarios. Assessment. He asked simply, their communication patterns developed through years of collaborative survival. Legitimate institution, she responded, organizing facts with characteristic precision. Financial transfer originates from historical foundation accounts without corporate oversight, unusual operational independence in current economic structure. Sarutobi's credentials verify across multiple databases including academic publications regarding ancient Japanese energy practices and philosophical traditions. And the risk calculation, Naruto prompted, trusting her evaluation above his own emotional response to unexpected opportunity. Hinata's expression softened momentarily from analytical assessment to personal concern. The resources already transferred provide significant security improvement regardless of follow-through. International travel creates documentation that could potentially legitimize your status beyond street operations. The opportunity cost seems justified by potential benefits. Unspoken between them remained the personal implication, first significant separation since establishing their underground family 3 years earlier. Hinata's capability to protect the others was unquestionable. Her personal response to Naruto's absence remained carefully contained behind practical assessment. I'll go, he decided, instincts aligning with logical evaluation. Whatever this heritage business involves, the resources will help everyone here. That's what matters. Hinata nodded, accepting his decision with characteristic composure that masked deeper emotional response. I'll prepare contingency protocols for your absence. As they turned toward practical implementation, neither could have anticipated how completely that decision would transform not only their lives but the fundamental power structures governing Night City itself. The memory shifted with dreamlike transition, consciousness flowing from our rain-soaked factory to international transport with disorienting immediacy. Rebecca experienced the passage of time without chronological constraints, feelings of departure anxiety, unfamiliar documentation procedures. First atmospheric flight, before reality reconstituted around Naruto's arrival in Kyoto. Ancient city and modern metropolis existed in strange harmony, traditional architecture preserved alongside contemporary structures through cultural commitment rather than corporate branding. Unlike Night City's chaotic development driven by competing corporate interests, Kyoto maintained deliberate balance between technological implementation and historical preservation. Sarutobi awaited at private landing facility removed from main transportation hubs, elderly figure whose traditional garments contrasted with modern surroundings. Despite advanced age suggested by white hair and lined features, his posture communicated vitality and purpose that transcended physical limitation. Naruto Uzumaki, he greeted with formal bow that Naruto awkwardly returned, cultural protocols unfamiliar to street-raised orphan. Your journey concludes precisely as anticipated. The timing or my actual arrival? Naruto questioned, Street-honed suspicion maintained despite extraordinary circumstances. Sarutobi's smile conveyed appreciation rather than offense. Both represent confirmation of patterns established long before either of us existed. Young man. Please, follow me. The artifacts await your specific attention. Transportation through Kyoto's ordered streets provided stark contrast to Night City's chaotic infrastructure. Private vehicle moved with automated precision through traffic systems that functioned as designed rather than through corporate override privileges. Cultural integration of technology rather than technological domination of culture created environment unlike anything Naruto had experienced. You mentioned heritage. Naruto prompted as metropolitan density G gradually yielded to more traditional district where contemporary structures gave way to preserved historical architecture. I'm assuming that explanation comes before whatever archaeological assistance you're expecting. They are inseparable aspects of the same revelation, Sarutobi responded, cryptic delivery suggesting philosophical approach rather than deliberate obscurity. Some truths must be experienced rather than explained to achieve proper understanding. The response might have triggered Naruto's characteristic impatience in different circumstances, but something about Kyoto's ATM osphere, or perhaps the curator's evident sincerity, encouraged unusual tolerance for indirect communication. Intuition suggested forthcoming revelation would indeed transcend simple explanation, though rational skepticism maintained defensive readiness for potential deception. Their destination materialized with unexpected modesty, traditional temple complex surrounded by carefully maintained gardens. Architectural elements suggesting centuries of continuous use rather than reconstructed tourist attraction. The structure bore no corporate sponsorship indicators, no commercial signage, no obvious security beyond simple elegance that somehow communicated significance without technological ostentation. Konoha Archives, Sarutobi explained as they passed through wooden gates that likely predated Night City's foundation. Established during Heian period and maintained through imperial patronage until modern governmental transition. Now preserved through historical foundation operating outside corporate influence structures. The distinction carried significance beyond architectural appreciation. Genuinely independent operations had become increasingly rare in global economy dominated by corporate interests, especially institutions maintaining valuable historical artifacts that typically attracted either commercial exploitation or corporate collection. And what exactly am I supposed to help recover? Naruto asked as they entered the main structure, interior revealing unexpected contrast between traditional architecture and modern preservation technology disguised to maintain aesthetic harmony. Artifacts recently discovered beneath Kyoto's southern district, Sarutobi explained, leading him through corridors where contemporary security systems had been carefully integrated into ancient structural elements. Construction project uncovered sealed chamber predating known architectural records for the location. Initial assessment suggests connection to historical traditio, and largely eliminated from conventional records. The explanation raised more questions than it answered, but Naruto's attention shifted as they entered central chamber where traditional elements gave way to state-of-the-art archaeological preservation systems. Holographic displays showed excavation site in remarkable detail, underground chamber accessed through construction breach, interior space containing objects incongruous with surrounding architecture. Preliminary analysis indicates technological components integrated with traditional scrolls and ceremonial objects, Sarutobi continued, activating additional displays showing artifacts already retrieved from the site. Carbon dating suggests approximately 1,000 years of containment without disruption or degradation. Most significantly, genetic recognition systems appear incorporated into preservation mechanisms. Naruto studied the displays with increasing fascination despite limited archaeological knowledge. The artifacts defied conventional historical categorization. Scrolls embedded with what appeared to be crystalline components, traditional weapons incorporating elements resembling modern technological implementations. Ceremonial objects designed with mathematical precision exceeding historical manufacturing capabilities. Genetic recognition systems, he questioned, focusing on element most directly connected to his presumed involvement. Sarutobi nodded, activating specific display showing circular seal embedded in chamber's central pedestal. This functions as locking mechanism for primary containment unit. Initial attempts at access triggered recognition scan that rejected all research personnel, then displayed specific genetic pattern as authorization requirement. The holographic representation shifted to show molecular structure Naruto couldn't interpret beyond recognizing DNA visualization. And this supposedly matches my genetic pattern. With 97% correlation, Sarutobi confirmed. Activating comparison display showing Naruto's genetic information alongside the chamber's requirement. The remaining variance accounts for generational drift over approximately 40 generations. The implication defied rational explanation. Technology capable of genetic recognition hadn't existed even 20 years ago, yet these artifacts supposedly incorporated such systems nearly a millennium earlier. More significantly, they allegedly recognized specific genetic lineage connecting to street orphan from Night City who had no knowledge of family heritage beyond institutional records. That's impossible, Naruto stated flatly, rational assessment rejecting evidence despite visual confirmation. You're suggesting thousand-year-old technology anticipated my specific genetic pattern. Not anticipated, Sarutobi corrected with scholarly precision. Preserved for retrieval by legitimate genetic descendant. The distinction proves crucial to understanding what these artifacts represent. Before Naruto could demand clearer explanation, Sarutobi gestured toward the chamber's far wall where previously unnoticed doorway opened to reveal descending staircase. Perhaps direct interaction will provide context words cannot convey. The chamber awaits your personal inspection. The invitation combined irresistible curiosity with lingering suspicion, too elaborate for simple deception yet too extraordinary for immediate acceptance. Street-honed caution battled with intuitive recognition that this connection, however improbable, resonated with questions that had shaped his existence since earliest memories. After you, Naruto suggested, practical security concerns maintaining priority despite growing fascination. Sarutobi's knowing smile suggested anticipation of this response rather than offense. Of course, the descent led them from preserved historical structure into excavation transitioning between architectural preservation and active archaeological site. Modern reinforcement supported ancient stone passages, environmental systems maintaining preservation atmosphere, security measures ensuring site integrity. Unlike corporate archaeological operations, focused on resource extraction or technological acquisition, this excavation demonstrated scholarly commitment to contextual understanding alongside physical preservation. The chamber was discovered 6 weeks ago during foundation stabilization for new cultural center, Sarutobi explained as they navigated carefully preserved passages. Ground-penetrating radar identified anomalous structure meters below documented historical foundations. Initial breach revealed intact chamber that appears deliberately sealed rather than naturally enclosed through structural evolution. The explanation on provided credible discovery narrative while raising further questions about preservation quality. Subterranean chambers typically suffered degradation through environmental exposure, biological contamination, structural settlement. Complete preservation suggested either extraordinary initial engineering or ongoing maintenance mechanism that defied conventional archaeological understanding. Here, Sarutobi indicated as they reached secured entrance where modern containment protocol had been established around ancient doorway. Initial access revealed antechamber only. Primary repository remains sealed behind recognition system that rejected all previous attempts at entry. Archaeologists and technical specialists moved with practiced efficiency around the perimeter, documentation systems capturing multispectral data. Preservation equipment maintaining optimal environmental conditions. The operation demonstrated professional standards exceeding typical corporate resource extraction disguised as historical research. And you believe I can somehow access this sealed area? Naruto questioned. Skepticism maintained despite growing fascination with the incongruous technology visible even from limited perspective. I believe you are specifically intended to access it, Sarutobi corrected with subtle but significant distinction. The genetic recognition system displayed your pattern as authorization requirement rather than simply rejecting unauthorized attempts. The artifacts were preserved specifically for retrieval by your bloodline. The assertion should have triggered immediate dismissal given its deviation from rational historical understanding, yet something about the chamber resonated with unconscious recognition Naruto couldn't articulate. An indefinable familiarity despite never having visited Kyoto previously, connection that transcended logical explanation. What exactly am I supposed to do? He asked, practical focus narrowing to immediate procedure rather than broader implications. Simply place your hand on the central seal, Sarutobi instructed, indicating circular design embedded in stone pedestal positioned at chamber's center. The system will either recognize your genetic pattern or it won't. No risk beyond potential disappointment. The straightforward approach appealed to Naruto's direct nature despite extraordinary context. Whatever this connection represented, elaborate deception or legitimate heritage, resolution required action rather than continued speculation. With characteristic determination that had defined his leadership among Night City's abandoned children, he stepped forward into the ancient chamber. Proximity triggered subtle but immediate response from integrated technology. Crystalline elements embedded within Traditional designs illuminated with soft blue radiance, energy patterns shifting in response to his presence before he made physical contact with any surface. The chamber itself seemed to awaken, dormant systems activating after centuries of inactivity. Remarkable, murmured one of the archaeological specialists, monitoring equipment registering energy patterns that defied conventional categorization. The systems are responding to proximity alone, not direct interaction. Naruto advanced toward the central pedestal where circular seal displayed intricate pattern combining linguistic elements resembling ancient Japanese with mathematical symbolism he couldn't interpret. The design radiated soft golden illumination that intensified as he approached, tracking his movement with precision. Had confirmed technological functionality rather than simple phosphorescent reaction. The pattern matches scrolls discovered in peripheral chambers, Sarutobi observed from the entrance, maintaining distance to allow uncontaminated interaction. Linguistic analysis suggests specialized dialect developed for specific philosophical tradition rather than regional variation. Symbolic elements incorporate mathematical principles rediscovered centuries later during Renaissance period. The academic analysis faded from Naruto's awareness as he reached the pedestal, attention focused entirely on seal that now pulsed with rhythmic illumination synchronized with his heartbeat. Inexplicable familiarity intensified despite rational certainty he had never encountered such technology or symbolic language. Place your hand directly on the central spiral, Sarutobi instructed, voice now distant despite physical proximity. The system appears designed for palm contact recognition rather than finger analysis used in modern implementations. Naruto extended his hand with uncharacteristic hesitation, intuition suggesting significance beyond simple archaeological discovery. As his palm connected with the illuminated surface, sensation exceeded anything in previous experience, energy flowing through contact point into his nervous system, information transmitting through mechanism that bypassed conventional sensory interpretation. Knowledge flooded his consciousness, language structure, philosophical framework, technological principles, historical context, downloaded directly rather than learned through conventional means. The experience transcended educational transfer, connection establishing itself at cellular level rather than merely cognitive understanding. The chamber responded with immediate transformation. The sealed doorway recessed into surrounding stone before sliding sideways, revealing inner repository that had remained isolated for centuries. Illumination emanated own crystalline structures embedded in walls and ceiling, technological systems activating in sequential pattern that suggested deliberate welcoming protocol rather than simple activation. Naruto's connection to the recognition seal continued, information transfer progressing beyond language and history into specialized knowledge regarding energy manipulation techniques preserved through deliberate isolation from conventional development. Chakra, the fundamental energy existing within all living beings, mapped itself into his consciousness alongside techniques for harnessing, directing, and manifesting this energy through disciplined practice. It recognizes him, someone whispered from the perimeter, archaeological professionalism momentarily abandoned in face of unprecedented activation. The systems are responding as though they were sealed yesterday rather than centuries ago. The inner chamber revealed its contents as Naruto finally disconnected from the recognition seal, Konsho. SNES integrating extraordinary information transfer with existing understanding. The repository contained precisely arranged artifacts, scrolls secured in specialized containment units, weapons displayed on ceremonial stands. Technological components organized in patterns suggesting instructional layout rather than simple storage. Central to the arrangement stood crystalline structure unlike surrounding artifacts, human-sized containment unit incorporating both ancient design elements and technological components that resembled modern stasis systems. Unlike archaeological preservation designed for inanimate objects, this system appeared intended for biological containment, or preservation. "What is this?" Naruto asked, voice sounding foreign to his own perception as newly integrated Knoll. DGE restructured linguistic patterns alongside conceptual understanding. "The legacy of Konoha," Sarutobi answered, entering the inner chamber with reverence that transcended academic appreciation. Quote, "Preserved through deliberate isolation when technological development threatened to corrupt its fundamental principles. Chakra manipulation techniques and associated knowledge removed from historical development until appropriate heir could retrieve them." The explanation aligned with information transmitted through recognition seal, yet raised more profound questions about historical development and deliberate knowledge sequestration. If this technology had existed a millennium earlier, subsequent development should have incorporated its principles rather than following completely different evolutionary path. "Why hide this?" Naruto questioned, examining scrolls whose symbols now carried meaning through direct knowledge transfer rather than requiring translation. This technology could have transformed human development. Precisely why it was isolated, Sarutobi confirmed with scholars' appreciation for historical complexity. The final scrolls explain the decision. Early implementation without philosophical foundation led to weaponization and destruction rather than harmonious development. Those who established this repository chose deliberate preservation until humanity developed ethical framework capable of integrating the knowledge responsibly. The concept challenged conventional understanding of technological evolution and historical development. Deliberate suppress. Ion of advanced knowledge represented either extraordinary ethical foresight or unjustifiable paternalism depending on philosophical perspective. "And they somehow knew to wait for my specific genetic pattern," Naruto pressed, skepticism reasserting itself despite direct experience of the chamber's responsive technology. "One random orphan from Night City." "Not random," Sarutobi corrected, approaching the central stasis unit with careful reverence. "The final guardian established genetic recognition parameters based on bloodline techniques unique to your ancestry. What you experienced through the recognition seal represents only preliminary knowledge transfer, functional language and basic principles. The complete understanding requires more direct transmission." He gestured toward the crystalline containment unit whose surface now displayed complex symbols responding to Naruto's proximity. "This system contains the accumulated knowledge of generations, preserved through specialized technique combining biological preservation with technological implementation. The final guardian awaits direct transmission to legitimate heir." The implication transcended rational acceptance despite extraordinary evidence already witnessed. Biological preservation spanning centuries defied medical understanding even with contemporary technology. Yet the chamber's demonstrated capabilities exceeded conventional historical parameters. Logical consistency suggested additional capabilities might similarly transcend current limitations. "You're saying someone is alive in there?" Naruto questioned, examining the crystalline structure with combination of fascination and disbelief. "After 1,000 years. Not conventionally alive," Sarutobi clarified with scholarly precision. "Consciousness preserved through specialized technique combining biological components with chakra preservation. Neither fully alive nor traditionally deceased, suspended in state designed specifically for our knowledge transfer to genetic descendant." The explanation should have triggered immediate rejection given its deviation from established biological understanding. Yet Naruto's direct experience the recognition seal had already demonstrated knowledge transfer mechanisms exceeding conventional education methods. Logical extension suggested possibility of more comprehensive transmission through a specialized system designed specifically for that purpose. Decision crystallized with characteristic directness that defined Naruto's approach to extraordinary circumstances. If this connection presented legitimate heritage, access to knowledge and capabilities that might transform not only his personal circumstances but potentially benefit the found family he'd established in Night City, the opportunity justified risk despite rational skepticism. "What do I need to do?" he asked simply, focus narrowing to practical implementation rather than philosophical implications. Sarutobi ED specialized interface incorporated into the containment unit's design. Place both hands on the receptor surfaces. The system will establish connection if your genetic pattern matches parameters established by the final guardian. The transfer process requires approximately 6 hours, during which your consciousness will experience subjective time dilation. The straightforward explanation SUG, stead familiarity beyond scholarly research, personal knowledge of procedures that should have been lost alongside the isolated technology. Before Naruto could question this discrepancy, his attention shifted to symbols materializing across the containment unit's surface, language he could now interpret through knowledge gained from the recognition seal. The message transcended simple instruction, personal communication directed specifically toward legitimate heir. To my descendant who carries our bloodline's unique pattern, the legacy of Konoha awaits your inheritance. The power preserved within these walls carries both tremendous potential and grave responsibility. What you gain through this connection will transform your understanding of human potential beyond conventional limitations. This power with wisdom that eluded our ancestors. The signature identified the author as Minato Namikaze, fourth Hokage and final guardian of the true path. The name triggered no recognition beyond sense that it should carry significance. Yet the direct address, communication prepared centuries earlier for specific recipient, created connection that transcended rational skepticism. Whatever extraordinary circumstances had created this repository, the intention behind its preservation appeared genuinely directed toward Naruto himself rather than generalized future retrieval. With characteristic determination that had defined his protection of Night City's abandoned children, Naruto placed both hands on the designated interface surfaces. Connection established with immediate intensity. Exceeding the recognition seal's preliminary transfer. Consciousness expanded beyond physical limitations as information flooded through pathways previously dormant within his neural architecture. Story unfolded within his perception, not academic chronology but lived experience transmitted through preservation technique beyond conventional understanding. The hidden villages of ancient Japan, Elized warrior traditions developing alongside civil society. Chakra manipulation techniques refined through generations of dedicated practice. Knowledge transcending simple information transfer to comprehensive understanding of energy manipulation, physical enhancement, specialized techniques developed by distinct traditions. Most significantly, his own heritage materialized within this transmitted understanding. Minato Namikaze, father he had never known, leader of hidden village, practitioner of specialized techniques, had deliberately preserved this knowledge alongside his own Konsho. SNES to ensure transmission to future generations. Kushina Uzumaki, mother whose existence institutional records had never acknowledged, had contributed specialized energy techniques unique to her blue D-line alongside genetic pattern that had enabled recognition. The revelation transcended simple ancestry, context materializing for capabilities Naruto had demonstrated throughout life without understanding their source. Unusual resilience, accelerated healing, intuitive connection to energy patterns others couldn't perceive, inherited traits rather than random genetic variation, capabilities deliberately preserved through bloodline that had continued despite institutional obscurity. Time dilated within the transfer process, subjective experience expanding to accommodate comprehensive knowledge transmission. Naruto experienced generations of development, specialized training, philosophical evolution alongside technical implementation. Most significantly, he directly accessed the preserved consciousness of Minato Namikaze, final guardian who had established the repository with specific intention of eventual retrieval by worthy descendant. The direct communication transcended simple knowledge transfer, father connecting to son across centuries through technology that defied conventional temporal limitations. Emotion transferred alongside information, love, determination, hope for your implementation that would transcend historical failures. The techniques had been isolated specifically because previous generations had weaponized them without philosophical foundation, creating destruction rather than advancement. The power itself is neutral, Minato's preserved consciousness explained through direct neural connection rather than conventional communication. Its implementat ion reflects the user's intention rather than inherent limitation. Previous generations failed to establish ethical framework capable of balancing tremendous capability with appropriate restraint. Our generation faces different challenges but similar ethical requirement. Power must serve harmonious development rather than domination. The philosophical foundation integrated alongside technical knowledge, contextualizing capabilities within ethical framework rather than simple utilitarian application. Chakra manipulation represented not merely technological advancement but fundamentally different approach to human potential, integration of physical capability, spiritual development, and technological implementation guided by ethical principles rather than mere efficiency metrics. When Naruto finally disconnected from the transfer system, subjective experience had expanded far beyond the 6 hours Sarutobi had indicated. His consciousness had integrated generations of specialized Knoll DGE alongside personal connection to ancestry. Institutional records had systematically obscured. Most significantly, he had gained understanding of capabilities previously dormant within his own biological systems, chakra pathways awaiting activation through knowledge that had remained isolated from conventional development. You understand now, Sarutobi observed, statement rather than question as Naruto turned from the containment unit with visibly transformed presence. The knowledge transfer had altered not merely intellectual understanding but physical bearing, dormant capabilities awakening. Through direct connection to preserved consciousness. I understand my heritage, Naruto acknowledged, perspective transformed through comprehensive context for capabilities he had unconsciously demonstrated throughout life. Though many questions remain about how this knowledge was systematically removed from historical record, or why my specific ancestry was institutionally obscured. Sarutobi nodded, scholarly appreciation evident alongside what now appeared as personal connection beyond academic interest. The suppression was deliberate rather than accidental, powerful interests recognizing potential threat to established control mechanisms. Chakra manipulation represents capability outside conventional power structures, personal potential that transcends institutional limitation. Those who established dominant paradigms systematically eliminated knowledge that threatened centralized control. The explanation aligned with information transferred through preserved consciousness, yet raised more profound questions about historical development and deliberate knowledge suppression. If chakra techniques had once been widely practiced, their systematic elimination from historical record suggested coordinated effort beyond mere technological evolution. The scrolls contain complete technical documentation alongside philosophical framework, Sarutobi continued, gesturing toward the carefully preserved artifacts surrounding the central containment unit. Though the direct transmission provides more comprehensive understanding than conventional study could achieve. These materials were preserved specifically for retrieval by legitimate heir with genetic capacity to fully implement the techniques. Naruto approached the scrolls with newly contextualized understanding, bowls now carrying meaning through direct knowledge transfer rather than requiring translation. The technical specifications described energy manipulation techniques with mathematical precision alongside philosophical principles governing ethical implementation. Most significantly, they documented technological integration methods, how chakra manipulation could interface with contemporary technology. Why, despite originating in pre-industrial context, these need to be protected, Naruto decided, recognizing potential beyond personal heritage. The applications could transform everything from Medici to environmental remediation if implemented with proper ethical framework. Precisely why the repository was established, Sarutobi confirmed with evident satisfaction at this conclusion. The knowledge was isolated not to prevent implementation but to ensure responsible retrieval by those capable of establishing appropriate ethical foundation. Your instinctive protection of vulnerable individuals despite personal cost suggests compatibility with the fundamental principles governing chakra implementation. The observation connected Naruto's established behavior pattern, protecting orphan children in Night City's hostile environment, with philosophical foundation transmitted through preserved consciousness. Capability required responsibility, power demanded ethical implementation, potential necessitated protective framework. I need to return to Night City, Naruto decided, perspective expanding beyond personal revelation to practical application. There are people who depend on me. Children who need protection these techniques could help provide. Sarutobi nodded, unsurprised by this conclusion. Transportation has been arranged whenever you determine appropriate departure timeline. The scrolls have been prepared for secure transfer through diplomatic channels that bypass conventional corporate inspection protocols. The ready accommodation suggested preparation extending beyond mere archaeological discovery, coordination that anticipated specific outcomes rather than exploratory research. Combined with Sarutobi's evident familiarity with chakra principles beyond scholarly interpretation, this preparation indicated connection deeper than initially presented. You knew what this repository contained before excavation began, Naruto observed, newly enhanced perk. Eption detecting subtle indicators previously overlooked. Your involvement extends beyond academic curiosity or coincidental discovery. Rather than denying this assessment, Sarutobi acknowledged its accuracy with respectful inclination. I represent continuation of tradition charged with monitoring potential re-emergence of chakra knowledge. The Sarutobi clan maintained awareness of isolated repositories alongside responsibility for identifying legitimate heirs should appropriate circumstances emerge. The revelation completed contextual framework, explaining both the curator's extensive PR preparation and his unsurprised response to successful knowledge transfer. Not merely archaeological discovery but culmination of generational responsibility, identifying appropriate heir for knowledge deliberately preserved through specialized technique. There are others who maintained this awareness, Sarutobi continued, providing critical information rather than simple historical context. Some, who will welcome re-emergence of these techniques alongside legitimate practitioner. Others who will perceive fundamental threat to established power structures. Your implementation will require both wisdom and caution, particularly in corporate environment designed specifically to monetize capability rather than maintain ethical foundation. The warning aligned with philosophical principles transmitted through preserved consciousness, capability without ethical framework inevitably trending toward exploitation rather than harmonious implementation. Night City's corporate-dominated structure presented perfect environment for corrupting chakra techniques into profit-generating applications without consideration of broader implications. I understand, Naruto acknowledged, decision crystal, lizzing with characteristic clarity that had defined his protection of vulnerable individuals throughout life. The knowledge would require selective implementation, careful integration, strategic application that maintained ethical foundation despite corporate pressure toward profitable exploitation. As preparations began for returning to Night City with this extraordinary heritage, Naruto recognized fundamental transformation extending beyond personal capability. The knowledge transferred through ancient technology would not merely enhance his individual potential but potentially reshape power structures that had dominated global society since corporate ascension. The orphan from Night City's abandoned districts had discovered not only personal ancestry but responsibility transcending individual circumstance, legacy preserved through centuries specifically for implementation during crucial developmental transition. The chakra techniques isolated from historical record represented potential for rebalancing power distribution that had concentrated within corporate structures at tremendous cost to individual autonomy. With characteristic determination that had defined his protection. A found family among Night City's discarded children, Naruto embraced this responsibility alongside the capability it enabled. The power preserved within ancient repository would serve those corporate structures had abandoned. Protect individuals existing outside profit-driven consideration, establish foundation for more balanced development than current paradigm permitted. The dragon god of GHT City began his journey within that underground chamber, though the title and position remained distant future development. The fundamental transformation had already initiated, Street Orphan Connect. Ting to heritage deliberately preserved for millennium, awakening capabilities systematically suppressed through institutional manipulation, embracing responsibility alongside power in pattern that would eventually reshape global power distribution. Night City awaited his return, unaware that fundamental change approached in form of determined young man carrying ancient knowledge deliberately isolated until appropriate heir could ensure ethical implementation. Rebecca gasped as the braindance connection severed, consciousness snapping back to present reality with disorienting abruptness. Commercial implementations designed for entertainment where transition occurred gradually to prevent neural shock. This disconnection happened with clinical efficiency prioritizing information integrity over comfort. Neural disengagement complete, Hinata announced, removing specialized equipment with practiced precision. Processing integrity verified at 97% transmission efficiency. The technical assessment barely registered as Rebecca integrated extraordinary experience with previous understanding. The braindance had provided not merely observation of historical events, but direct participation in consciousness-expanding revelation that challenged fundamental assumptions about technological development, historical accuracy, and human potential. That actually happened, she stated, confirmation seeking rather than questioning as reality realigned around expanded understanding. The scrolls, the knowledge transfer, the preserved consciousness, all of it. The factual elements, yes. Naruto confirmed, removing his own neural interface with casual familiarity suggesting routine usage. Your emotional response and interpretive framework remained entirely your own, as with all braindance technology. The experience itself occurred exactly as recorded. Rebecca studied him with new perspective, contextualizing corporate legend against origin story directly experienced. The street orphan protecting vulnerable children had evolved into corporate leader implementing ancient knowledge through contemporary technology, transformation bridging personal heritage, and global impact through deliberate application of rediscovered capability. The clinics in Watson District, she observed, connecting underground medical facilities with principles witnessed through knowledge transfer. They're implementing chakra healing techniques from the scrolls. Naruto nodded, neither celebrating this connection nor qualifying its significance. Medical applications rep. Resented most ethically straightforward implementation. Capability that could immediately benefit those excluded from corporate healthcare systems while establishing practical demonstration of harmonious rather than exploitative application. Quote, the straightforward acknowledgement confirmed Rebecca's developing understanding. Arasaka's public Sage tech implementations, combat enhancements, corporate productivity systems, luxury consumer applications, represented strategic compromise with profit-driven expectations while underground operations implemented truly transformative applications outside shareholder visibility. Why show me this? She asked directly, characteristic bluntness reasserting itself as neural systems stabilized following intense braindance experience. Corporate secrets don't typically get shared with edge runners who broke into research facilities. Because Night City approaches critical transition point, Naruto answered with equal directness. The chakra techniques served through ancient repositories were isolated specifically to prevent weaponization without ethical foundation. Current corporate competition, particularly Militech's aggressive development, threat, ends precisely the destructive implementation those who established the repositories sought to prevent. The explanation aligned with philosophical principles transmitted through preserved consciousness. Capability requiring ethical framework, power demanding responsible application, potential necessitating protective structure. Corporatized implementation prioritizing profit metrics inevitably NDING toward exploitative applications regardless of broader implications. The Kagaya Protocol, Rebecca connected, recalling terminology from Security Breach that had thrown them together. That's somehow related to corrupted chakra implementation. Naruto exchanged meaningful glance with Hinata before confirming this assessment. The ancient scrolls documented previous cycle where unregulated chakra implementation created catastrophic outcome, entity that transcended individual limitation through technological amplification of specialized techniques. Modern parallel has emerged through ITech's attempts at reverse engineering Sage tech without understanding fundamental principles. The revelation completed contextual framework for recent security breaches, explaining both targeted attacks against chakra-related facilities and unusual technological signatures exhibited by intruders. Not merely corporate espionage but emergence of threat pattern documented in ancient scrolls, Kuru. PTED implementation creating catastrophic potential through unregulated application. And you need people who understand street-level implementation rather than corporate application, Rebecca concluded. Analytical framework reconstructing likely strategy from available information. People who can navigate between official corporate channels and underground networks where chakra techniques are being actually implemented for public benefit. Your assessment matches Naruto's evaluation of your potential contribution, Hinata confirmed. Professional acknowledgement replacing technical focus as equipment deactivation completed. Street-level perspective provides critical context corporate analysis inevitably lacks despite technological sophistication. The straightforward acknowledgement of value rather than manipulative recruitment impressed Rebecca despite lingering suspicion regarding corporate motivation. The braindance experience had provided context beyond verbal explanation could achieve, demonstrating both extraordinary heritage and ethical foundation guiding implementation strategy. Decision crystallized with characteristic directness that defined Rebecca's approach to complex situations. The technology demonstrated through medical clinics represented genuine potential for improving conditions throughout Night City's forgotten districts. The philosophical foundation guiding implementation aligned with her own prioritization of individual welfare over corporate profit metrics. The threat represented by corrupted implementation, whether through Militech's aggressive development or emerging Kagaya protocol, endangered precisely the vulnerable populations she had always sought to protect. "I'm in," she stated simply, professional assessment overriding lingering corporate suspicion. Not for Arasaka, not for profit metrics, not for corporate bullshit, but for making sure this technology actually helps the people who need it rather than just creating new exploitation systems. The directness appeared to satisfy Naruto, whose expression showed genuine rather than calculated appreciation. Precisely the motivation implementation requires, he acknowledged. Corporate structures inevitably prioritize profit generation regardless of humanitarian potential. Counterbalance requires individuals committed to broader welfare beyond shareholder returns. As the Indus facilities systems completed shutdown procedures, Rebecca processed implications of partnership that challenged her established anti-corporate positioning. The technology itself remained neuter. As Minato's preserved consciousness had explained, implementation reflected user intention rather than inherent limitation. Ensuring beneficial application required individuals committed to ethical framework regardless of profit potential, precisely the counterbalance corporate structures systematically eliminated through institutional incentives. So what happens now? She asked. Practical focus reasserting itself as philosophical consideration reached logical conclusion. I'm guessing this involves more than just technical consultation for Watson clinics. Indeed, Naruto confirmed, risking from specialized equipment with fluid movement suggesting regular physical training rather than typical corporate sedentary patterns. Night City hosts Global Corporate Summit beginning tomorrow. Convergence of major corporate interests negotiating resource allocation and market segmentation for coming decade. Beneath official agenda, significant discussion regarding Sage tech implementation and potential regulation will determine development parameters moving forward. The information carried obvious strategic implications. Corporate summits represented rare convergence of decision-making. Authorities typically insulated behind layers of organizational hierarchy. Implementation parameters established during such gatherings typically shaped technological development across extended time frames regardless of public input or welfare considerations. And my role involves what exactly? Rebecca questioned, professional caution engaging alongside commitment to ethical implementation. Doesn't seem like street-level perspective gets much consideration in global corporate negotiations. Precisely why alternative implementation channels require protection during this critical period, Hinata explained. Operational focus replacing technical orientation as conversation shifted toward practical strategy. While official negotiations proceed through corporate channels, underground facilities face heightened vulnerability from interests seeking to eliminate alternative implementation models. The strategic assessment aligned with Rebecca's professional experience. Corporate consolidation typically involved eliminating competing models rather than merely dominating market segments. Independent operations representing genuinely alternative approaches faced systematic targeting rather than mere competitive pressure. Protective operation rather than corporate infiltration, Rebecca translated into practical terminology. Making sure the clinics and other underground implementations survive whatever corporate restructuring emerges from the summit. Precisely, Naruto confirmed. While I navigate official channels to ensure regulatory frameworks maintain sufficient flexibility for ethical implementation, the existing underground network requires continued operation regardless of corporate positioning shifts. The strategy demonstrated sophisticated understanding of power dynamics within Night City's complex ecosystem, official representation within corporate structures alongside independent implementation channels operating outside official oversight. Not merely parallel operations but complementary approaches ensuring beneficial technology remained accessible regardless of corporate consolidation outcomes. "I'll need complete network mapping," Rebecca stated. "Professional planning initiating automatically. Security protocols, communication systems, contingency procedures for each facility. And my crew, at least Maine and Dorio for additional security implementation. Already arranged," Hinata confirmed, transmitting comprehensive data package directly to Rebecca's secured systems. "Your associates were contacted through intermediary channels to maintain operational security. They await your confirmation before full briefing." The ready accommodation suggested preparation extending beyond recent recruitment, strategic planning anticipating spec. IFIC operational requirements rather than reactive adaptation. Combined with extraordinary braindance experience providing contextual understanding beyond verbal briefing could achieve this preparity. On indicated significance beyond typical corporate security contracting. As Rebecca reviewed transmitted information with professional assessment, understanding crystallized regarding her positioning within larger strategic framework. Not merely security contractor but essential bridge between corporate implementation and street-level application, ensuring technology with transformative potential. Actually reached populations systematically excluded from conventional distribution channels. One condition, she stipulated, characteristic directness defining terms rather than simply accepting assigned role. Whatever happens with the corporate summit, the clinics stay independent from official Arasaka operations. No absorption into corporate structure, no shareholder oversight, no profit met. RICS applied to humanitarian applications. The requirement challenged conventional corporate integration strategy, directly opposing standard approaches to successful initiative implementation. Typical pattern would involve developing proof of concept through independent operation before absorbing into official corporate structure for scaled implementation, inevitably transforming humanitarian application into profit-generating operation through corporate efficiency requirements. Agreed, Naruto responded without hesitation or qualification, the immediate acceptance confirming alignment with his own implementation strategy. The underground network was established specifically to operate outside corporate parameters for precisely this reason. Ethical implementation requires independence from profit-driven metrics regardless of efficiency considerations. The straightforward agreement cemented Rebecca's commitment beyond professional contracting into genuine partnership based on shared implementation principles. Whatever corporate machinations emerged from Global Summit, the underground network would continue providing humanitarian applications to Night City's Forgotten District. Without profit requirements distorting distribution priorities. As preparation finalized for upcoming security operations, Rebecca recognized transformation in her own perspective alongside practical responsibilities. The cynical edgerunner who had attempted stealing corporate secrets now committed to protecting implementation network ensuring those secrets benefited populations corporations systematically neglected. Not because Arasaka deserved protection but because the technology itself, and the people it could help, warranted defense against corrupted implementation regardless of corporate positioning. Night City's complex power dynamics shifted around this unexpected alliance, though traditional players remained unaware of fundamental recalibration occurring beneath official channels. The Dragon God and the legendary Edgerunner, unlikely partners connected through shared commitment to ethical implementation rather than profit generation, prepared for corporate summit that would determine not merely market segmentation but fundamental application parameters for technology with transformative potential. The shadows of the Sage deepened as ancient knowledge moved through contemporary implementation channels. Guided by ethical framework preserved alongside technical specifications in repository deliberately isolated until appropriate heir could ensure responsible application. Whatever emerged from corporate negotiations, alternative channels would continue providing humanitarian implementations regardless of profit potential, protected by partnership transcending conventio. Null corporate security through shared commitment to ethical application. The Westbrook Grand Hotel represented corporate excess distilled into architectural form, 200 stories of reinforced GLA. SS and proprietary alloys rising above Night City's chaotic sprawl like crystallized privilege. Unlike Arasaka Tower's militaristic precision or Militech headquarters' brutalist statement, the Westbrook OK projected sophisticated neutrality, designated negotiation space where competing corporate interests could interact without symbolic domination by any single entity. Naruto studied the structure Fr. Own his personal transport as automated guidance systems navigated carefully controlled approach vectors. The upcoming summit represented public convergence of interests that typically operated through intermediaries and proxies, rare gathering of actual decision makers rather than designated representatives. Corporate leadership from 17 major entities would establish implementation parameters for coming decade through supposedly collaborative negotiation that inevitably favored largest entities regardless of public positioning. Final security verification completed, came Hinata's voice through secured communication channel. Professional focus evident despite transmission limitations. Perimeter systems show nominal configuration without detected irregularities. Rebecca's team has established monitoring presence in maintenance subsystems with 70% coverage of non-public areas. And our special guest, Naruto inquired, referring to diplomatic representative whose AR rival had triggered significant reassessment of strategic positioning. Suna delegation cleared security protocols approximately 17 minutes ago, Hinata reported with characteristic precision. Primary representative Tamari Sabaku accompanied by 4 security specialists and 2 technical advisors. Equipment verification revealed specialized atmospheric manipulation technology consistent with previous intelligence assessment. The information confirmed preliminary profile while suggesting capability exceeding publicly acknowledged parameters. Suna Dynamics, Middle Eastern Corporate Alliance controlling significant resource extraction operations across formerly national territories, had traditionally maintained distance from northern corporate negotiations. Their unexpected participation in current summit indicated shifting strategic priorities potentially connected to chakra technology proliferation. Maintain standard observation protocol with additional attention to interpersonal dynamics. Naruto instructed as his transport reached designated arrival zone. Her technical background suggests capacity for recognizing Sage tech applications beyond publicly acknowledged parameters. Understood, Hinata acknowledged before shifting to operational focus. Rebecca reports unusual electronic signature detected in service areas adjacent to conference facilities. Pattern Res. Emble's disruption experienced during previous security breach but at significantly reduced intensity. Potential surveillance implementation rather than active intrusion. The information suggested PR. Preparation for potential operation rather than immediate threat. Surveillance preceding direct action, intelligence gathering supporting subsequent implementation. Given timing correlation with summit commencement, connection to corporate negotiation appeared probable rather than coincidental timing. Implement countermeasures without alerting standard security, Naruto decided, strategic assessment. Chi prioritizing intelligence gathering above immediate neutralization. If someone's establishing observation capability, I want to know what they're specifically targeting before eliminating their access. Approved approach. Hinata confirmed as the transport completed arrival procedures. Rebecca implementing passive monitoring through maintenance systems. Main positioned for rapid response if surveillance transitions to active measures. Naruto acknowledged this information with subtle gesture as transport doors opened to carefully choreographed reception protocols. Corporate Summit Proc. Editors required specific arrival sequencing designed to prevent appearance of preferential treatment. Arrival order determined through randomized algorithm rather than market capitalization or territorial dominance. Arasaka's positioning midway through arrival sequence represented neither advantage nor disadvantage within negotiation framework. The reception area exemplified corporate neutrality. Hero architectural implementation. Design elements incorporating visual references to all participating entities without allowing any single aesthetic to dominate spatial experience. Representatives. From competing corporations engaged in carefully calibrated preliminary interactions, establishing social positioning through subtle indicators comprehensible only to fellow participants in global economic dominance. Uzumaki-san greeted Takamura with formal precision as Naruto entered the designated transition area. As head of Arasaka Security, his presence at corporate summit represented standard protocol rather than unusual precaution. All preparations have been completed according to specifications. The delegation awaits your arrival in the preliminary coordination chamber. The forma. L. Acknowledgement maintained proper corporate appearance while conveying essential confirmation that specialized arrangements had been implemented as planned. Unlike standard corporate representatives, who operated exclusively through official channels, Naruto's strategic approach incorporated both conventional participation and specialized implementation operating outside typical corporate parameters. Excellent. Naruto responded with appropriately modulated appreciation. I understand we have unexpected participation from Middle Eastern interests this session. Indeed, Takamura confirmed, as they proceeded through security transitions designed to prevent unauthorized technology transfer between corporate territories. Suna Dynamics has registered formal delegation for full participation rather than observer status. Their representatives completed arrival procedures approximately 20 minutes ago. The information duplicated Hinata's earlier report while maintaining appearance of standard corporate communication channels. This deliberate redundancy ensured critical intelligence reached appropriate recipients regardless of potential surveillance or communication disruption. Core Parade habit developed through decades of competitive information gathering rather than unnecessary procedural duplication. As they navigated carefully neutral transitional spaces between reception area and conference facilities, Naruto maintained appropriate corporate demeanor while enhanced awareness monitored surrounding electronic signatures for unusual patterns. The chakra-enhanced Perceptio N developed through ancient knowledge integration allowed detection of energy fluctuations invisible to standard corporate security measures, specialized capability that had contributed significantly to Arasaka's competitive advantages in recent decades. Sabaku-san specifically requested introduction prior to formal proceedings, Takamura noted as they approached preliminary coordination chamber, where corporate representatives established initial positioning before official negotiations commenced. Her communication indicated potential collaborative opportunity regarding specialized atmospheric implementation. The specific reference suggested legitimate business interest rather than merely strategic positioning, actual technological collaboration rather than simple competitive assessment. Suna Dynamics had developed specialized atmospheric manipulation technology for desert environment adaptation. Potential integration with Sage Tech applications could create implementation capability, i.e. exceeding either technology's individual parameters. I look forward to discussing possibilities, Naruto acknowledged as they reached the coordination chamber entrance. The standardized response conveyed appropriate corporate openness without specific commitment, maintaining negotiation flexibility while acknowledging potential collaborative value. The preliminary coordination chamber example applied carefully calculated corporate neutrality through both architectural implementation and procedural design. Circular configuration prevented hierarchical positioning, standardized seating eliminated subtle dominance indicators. Environmental systems maintained precise atmospheric conditions preventing physiological advantage through temperature or oxygen saturation manipulation. Every aspect, designed to create appearance of collaborative equality despite fundamental power imbalances governing actual negotiation parameters. Corporate representatives engaged in preliminary interactions establishing social positioning through carefully calibrated conversation that communicated competitive assessment beneath superficial collegiality. Market capitalization, territorial dominance, technological advantage, all conveyed through subtle linguistic indicators and proxemic positioning rather than direct acknowledgement. The appearance of collaborative discussion obscuring fundamental competitive, undefined corporate summit interactions regardless of official cooperative agenda. Naruto navigated this environment with practiced familiarity, enhanced perception identifying both standard corpora positioning and unusual patterns suggesting alternative agendas. Most representatives maintained typical interaction parameters with expected technological enhancements, certain participants' demons traded subtle indicators suggesting implementation beyond publicly acknowledged capabilities. Uzumaki-san came measured greeting from Danzo Shimura, Arasaka's senior board member whose traditional appearance concealed significant cybernetic enhancement beneath conventional exterior. Our delegation has completed preliminary position documentation for your review before formal proceedings commence. The formal interaction disguised complex relationship extending beyond typical corporate hierarchy. As Arasaka's longest-serving board member, Danzo represented old guard perspective advocating conventional corporate positioning rather than Naruto's more innovative implementation approach. Their philosophical differences regarding Sage tech application parameters remained carefully contained. Within internal discussions rather than public positioning, maintaining appearance of unified corporate strategy despite fundamental disagreement. Thank you, Shimura-san, Naruto acknowledged with appropriate respect for position despite private awareness of Danzo's recent unauthorized access to restricted research documentation. All review before commencement. Has our technical division provided implementation parameters for collaborative discussion topics? All documentation has been prepared according to established protocols, Danzo confirmed, subtle emphasis suggesting adherence to conservative disclosure parameters rather than innovative positioning Naruto might prefer. Our position remains consistent with previous summit participation regarding technology transfer limitations. The exchange maintained appearance of unified corporate positioning while communicating ongoing philosophical difference regarding implementation approach. Danzo advocated traditional corporate restriction methodology, limited technology transfer, proprietary application parameters, profit-maximizing implementation. Naruto's approach incorporated broader distribution potential alongside human-atarian applications operating outside conventional profit metrics, fundamental difference regarding corporate responsibility versus shareholder return prioritization. As this carefully modulated exchange concluded, Naruto detected distinctive energy signature approaching from adjacent conversation cluster, unusual implementation patterns suggesting specialized technology beyond standard corporate enhancement. Without obvious attention shift that might indicate enhanced perception capability, he monitored the approaching figure while maintaining appropriate conversation with additional Arasaka representatives. Naruto Uzumaki, came distinctive female voice, confident pronunciation demonstrating linguistic precision rather than translation dependence. Arasaka's visionary leader whose implementation philosophy has transformed corporate application parameters across multiple market segments. The formal introduction contains subtle complexity beyond standard corporate greeting, Aknal. DG meant of philosophical approach rather than merely positional authority, recognition of transformative impact rather than simple market dominance. Naruto turned with calibrated movement suggesting appropriate interest without excessive eagerness, maintaining proper corporate demeanor while enhanced perception assessed the speaker with significantly greater precision than visible reaction indicated. Tamari Sabaku projected calculated presence through both physical presentation and technological implementation. Her formal business attire incorporated traditional Middle Eastern design elements, adapted to contemporary materials, cultural reference maintaining personal identity within corporate homogeneity. More significantly, specialized implants visible along forearms suggested atmospheric manipulation capabilities Suna had developed for desert environment adaptation, technology with potential applications beyond publicly acknowledged parameters. Tamari Sabaku, Naruto acknowledged with appropriate corporate courtesy. Suna Dynamics primary research director whose atmospheric implementation technology has revolutionized habitability parameters across previously non-viable territories. Your participation adds valuable perspective to our discussions. The response demonstrated information access beyond public documentation, acknowledgement of her technical contribution rather than merely corporate position. Recognition of specific implementation impact rather than general market presence. The calibrated knowledge display established intellectual engagement rather than merely positional interaction. Suggesting potential collaborative approach rather than simple competitive assessment. Your awareness of technical contributions rather than merely market positioning confirms reports of your unusual approach. Tamari observed with directness uncommon in preliminary corporate interactions. Perhaps we might discuss potential collaborative implementation before formal proceed. INGs establish competitive parameters that discourage innovation sharing. The proposal deviated from standard corporate protocol where preliminary discussions maintained generalized positioning rather than specific collaborative exploration. Her direct approach suggested either cultural variation in negotiation methodology or strategic calculation that unusual timing might bypass traditional corporate restrictions. I would welcome such discussion, Naruto confirmed, recognizing potential value in atmospheric manipulation technology integration with Sage tech applications. Perhaps we might utilize the technical assessment chamber rather than general coordination space. Specialized implementation discussion benefits from appropriate environmental configuration. The suggestion provided Both practical advantage through access to technical display capabilities and strategic benefit through reduced surveillance potential in specialized chambers designed for proprietary technology discussion. Corporate protocol established specific parameters for collaborative exploration that included enhanced privacy protection compared to general coordination spaces. An excellent suggestion. Tamari agreed with professional appreciation that suggested technical orientation rather than merely corporate positioning. My technical advisors have prepared preliminary integration models that WOU/LD benefit from specialized display capabilities. As they proceeded toward designated technical assessment chamber, Naruto maintained appropriate corporate demeanor while enhanced awareness monitor. Surrounding electronic signatures with significantly greater precision than standard security measures. The unusual energy pattern Rebecca had detected remained present at minimal implementation level. Observation capability rather than active intrusion, intelligence gathering supporting subsequent operation rather than immediate threat. The technical assessment chamber provided both practical advantages for specialized discussion and strategic benefits through enhanced security protocols. Unlike general coordination spaces designed for broad corporate interaction, technical chambers incorporate rated specialized shielding preventing unauthorized data collection alongside display capabilities supporting detailed technical demonstration. Corporate protocol established these spaces specifically for proprietary technology discussion where standard competitive restrictions might be temporarily modified through formal confidentiality agreements. Your reputation for innovative implementation philosophies has spread considerably beyond official corporate documentation, Tamari observed as chamber security protocols activated, ensuring conversation privacy beyond standard corporate parameters. Particularly regarding technology with applications exceeding conventional development methodology. The statement suggested information access beyond public positioning, knowledge of Sage Tech F. Fundamental principles rather than merely commercial applications, awareness of implementation philosophy rather than simply market strategy. Given Suna's geographic and corporate distance from Arasaka's primary operations, this knowledge indicated either exceptional intelligence gathering capability or specific interest in chakra-related technology development. Innovative technology requires implementation philosophy transcending conventional application parameters, Naruto responded, assessing her information access level without confirming specific knowledge beyond publicly acknowledged capabilities. Particularly when fundamental principles involve energy manipulation technologies with environmental integration potential. The calibrated response acknowledged shared technical understanding while maintaining appropriate information security regarding specific implementation methods. Corporate protocol established careful balance between collaborative exploration and proprietary protection, acknowledging shared interests without compromising competitive advantages through excessive disclosure. Tamari smiled, the expression conveying genuine appreciation rather than merely social courtesy. Your diplomatic response maintains appropriate corporate positioning while establishing foundation for potential collaboration. Refreshingly efficient compared to typical preliminary actions that waste considerable time pretending fundamental interests aren't immediately obvious to both parties. The directness confirmed initial assessment of unusual negotiation approach, Technica. Orientation prioritizing practical collaboration above political positioning, efficiency focus suggesting value-driven methodology rather than status-oriented interaction. This approach aligned with Suna's reported operational philosophy where resource limitations necessitated implementation efficiency rather than political maneuvering. Perhaps direct demonstration might establish shared understanding more effectively than theoretical discussion, Tamari suggested, activating specialized implants visible along her forearms. The technology responded with immediate effectiveness, localized atmospheric conditions shifting through precise manipulation rather than general environmental modification. The demonstration confirmed technological capability exceeding publicly documented parameters. Direct atmospheric manipulation through personal implementation rather than merely environmental system control. Precise modification capability suggesting fundamental principles beyond conventional technological understanding. Most significantly, the implementation pattern contained energy signatures resembling chakra manipulation techniques though through apparently independent development methodology. Fascinating implementation approach, Naruto acknowledged, genuine appreciation replacing corporate courtesy. Your manipulation technique utilizes principles similar to technologies we've explored through independent development channels. The resonance pattern suggests potential integration exceeding either technology's individual parameters. The observation acknowledged shared tech logical understanding while establishing foundation for collaborative exploration, recognizing parallel development without compromising proprietary methodology, suggesting integration potential with how detailing specific implementation approach. Corporate protocol established careful balance between acknowledging common ground and maintaining competitive advantage through selective disclosure. Tamari deactivated her specialized technology with precise control, demonstrating extensive implementation experience rather than merely theoretical understanding. Your assessment confirms preliminar Y analysis suggesting potential synthesis between Sage tech energy manipulation and our atmospheric modification principles. The applications could transform environmental remediation capabilities beyond current implementation parameters. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.